Chapter 358. The origin of the witchcraft physique was written by someone. The things described in it could be traced back to the origin of chaos. Jiang Chen read it carefully and studied it earnestly. In the end, he closed the ancient book and furrowed his brows. Jiang Chen knew how to cultivate the eight sky flowing fire. However, without the Nanming primordial fire, he could not cultivate the eight sky flowing fire. Apart from these items, there was nothing else in this cave abode that had anything to do with flames. Then, was it true that there was the Nanming primordial fire in the cave? Do you think this kid can get the Nanming primordial fire? Outside, Li Wangshan frowned and asked the other 5 patriarchs. Better not, the second tribe leader said. I don't want an outsider to be the tribe leader of the Li tribe. One had to know that the Li tribe had a rule that whoever obtained the Nanming primordial fire would be the great tribe leader of the 6 great Li tribes and would be able to command the 6 great Li tribes. That was why the 6 tribe leaders did not want Jiang Chen to get the Nanming primordial fire. After all, in their eyes, Jiang Chen was an outsider. He was just Li Qianqiu's son-in-law. We are all family. Li Qianqiu smiled. It has been a long time since someone got the Nanming primordial fire. Our Li tribe can't hold our heads high in front of the other tribes. Sigh. Li Wangshan let out a long sigh. He also knew the current situation of the Li tribe. The other tribes, such as the Chun tribe in the east, the Ling tribe in the west, and the Hong tribe in the north, would have someone get the strongest power in their tribe every 3 years. The Li tribe had not gotten the Nanming primordial fire for 100 years. If this continued, the Li tribe would be laughed at by the other 3 tribes. They might even be swallowed up and exterminated. The relationship between the 4 tribes in the Nether region was not as harmonious as it seemed. I heard that not long ago, a young man from the Qin tribe in the east got the East Dragon primordial wind and was crowned as the Holy Sun, the 5th tribe leader said. Last month, someone from the Ling tribe in the west got the Shieling primordial gold. The leader of the 4th Li clan laughed bitterly. It's our Li clan. It's been more than 100 years, but no one has been able to control the strongest power of our clan. So, if my son-in-law can control the Nanming primordial fire, it will be a good thing. Li Qianqiu smiled. However, everyone knew that it was not easy to obtain the Nanming primordial fire. It was even harder to control it. Otherwise, how could the Li clan not have a single person who could control the Nanming primordial fire in these 100 years? As the saying went, spiritual objects chose their masters. If one wanted to obtain the Nanming primordial fire, one would need to obtain its approval. Otherwise, even if the Nanming primordial fire was placed in front of him, he would not be able to obtain it, let alone control it. At that moment, in Nanming's cave abode, Jiang Chen could not find the Nanming primordial fire, but he did not think too much about it. Anyway, this cave abode was filled with heaven and earth spiritual energy and was suitable for cultivation. As such, Jiang Chen sat down cross-legged. As he raised his cultivation level, he cultivated the 8th wildfire. Time passed by slowly, until the 3rd day. Today was the day that Jiang Chen had to leave Nanming's cave abode. Jiang Chen was also aware of this. That was why he stopped practicing and waited for someone to take him out. However, the moment he stopped cultivating and opened his eyes, Jiang Chen's expression froze. This was because he did not know when, in front of him, there was a small bird that was surrounded by flames. It was staring at him with its sneaky eyes. What is this? Jiang Chen frowned and muttered. Why is there another living thing in this cave abode? It doesn't look like a vermilion bird or a phoenix. It looks more like a sparrow. Just as he finished speaking, the small bird suddenly flapped its wings and pecked Jiang Chen's head with its beak. It scolded angrily. Who are you calling a sparrow? Have you seen a sparrow like me? Ah, it can talk. Jiang Chen was stunned for a moment. Then he thought about it and did not find it strange. After all, this small bird looked extraordinary. Its entire body was covered in flames. Other than its ugly appearance, the other parts were easy to talk about. Hey, little brat, let me ask you a question. All of a sudden, the little bird put on an old-fashioned look and asked, Are you a god? Jiang Chen frowned. He felt that this small bird was not simple. I'm asking you a question. What am... The small bird slanted its eyes and looked disdainfully at the world. It said, "Hurry up. This king has no time to talk nonsense with you." This king? Jiangchen was confused. In these 3,000 years, there were not many people who dared to call themselves this king in front of him. However, now that he was reborn, his strength was not as strong as before. Jiangchen also endured. "Your soul has the aura of a god." Seeing that Jiangchen did not speak, the small bird could not help but say, "If you can bring me to the ninth heaven divine world, I can give you a great fortune right now. A great opportunity." "Sorry, I have a bird." Jiangchen curled his lips. He had no interest in this small bird that suddenly appeared and acted like an old man. However, the small bird's next sentence moved Jiangchen. "I also came down from the ninth heaven divine world. My origin is still in the ninth heaven divine world. However, my injuries were not light, so it was difficult for me to cultivate. I could only let someone bring me to the ninth heaven divine world." The small bird said, "As long as I return to the ninth heaven divine world and find that part of the origin, I can help you do anything. I even dare to say that in the ninth heaven divine world, with me protecting you, you can do whatever you want." Jiangchen was shocked. He was dumbfounded by her words. At the same time, Jiangchen secretly used the yin-yang pupil sun-moon eye. In an instant, the light in Jiangchen's eyes rose and fell. The sun and moon appeared together. The two rays of light were like pillars of light, shining on the small bird's body. Screech! In the next instant, the small bird that Jiangchen saw in his eyes suddenly changed. This was a divine bird shrouded in raging flames. The feathers on its head were like a crown. The feathers on its tail were 3 colors bright red. When both wings spread open, it was as if it could embrace the entire world. "This is one of the 4 great divine beasts." "Vermilion bird?" Jiangchen cried out in surprise. It was hard to believe that a vermilion bird actually appeared in this Nanming cave. "Boy, you have good taste." The small bird had a proud look and said, "How is it? Have you thought about it?" "Hold on. You said you're from the ninth heaven divine world?" Jiangchen's expression was strange. He suddenly thought of something. Back then, when Jiangchen was still a divine king in the ninth heaven divine world, he heard a rumor. That was countless years ago, a vermilion bird did appear in the ninth heaven divine world. But that vermilion bird did many bad things. In the end, it was struck to death by the power of the heavens. Its cultivation was cut off, and it was exiled to the lower realm, which was this godless continent. Now that he thought about it, looking at the small bird in front of him again, Jiangchen could not help but ask, "Countless years ago, the vermilion bird that did many bad things in the ninth heaven divine world and was struck by the heavens in the end, was it you?" Cough, cough. When the small bird heard that, it immediately revealed an embarrassed expression. It even used its wings to cover its face and said, "You're wrong. That vermilion bird is not me." Chapter 359. Back then, in the nine heavens divine realm, Jiangchen heard that the vermilion bird could be said to be an evil tyrant-level creature. Especially towards the Dragon Clan, Phoenix Clan, Qilin Clan, it bullied them all, not to mention swindling. It even dug out the dragon horn of the Dragon Clan Patriarch. It even pulled out the Phoenix Clan Patriarch's phoenix robe. The Qilin Clan was even more miserable. It was said that the Qilin Clan's holy maiden was abducted by the vermilion bird. Later on, she gave birth to a nest of vermilion birds that did not look like vermilion birds, Qilins that did not look like Qilins. And it was said that those creatures were quite strong. Of course, if it was only doing these things, it was impossible for the heavens to split it. It was all because this fellow had committed a grave mistake in the past. He had almost broken the realm wall. The main reason why the godless continent and the nine heavens divine realm could not communicate with each other was the realm wall. With the existence of the realm wall, it could maintain the stability of the two worlds. But that vermilion bird, who knew what it was thinking back then, it actually wanted to break the realm wall, wanted to connect the godless continent and the nine heavens divine realm. It was precisely this matter that made the heavens angry. It was said that back then, the heavens were angry and sent down heavenly punishment, heavenly wrath, heavenly tribulation, bombarding for a full 19 days before that vermilion bird's cultivation was destroyed, and it was exiled to the godless continent. Now, this vermilion bird in front of him, Jiang Chun had a feeling that it was that evil tyrant vermilion bird back then. Since this king was born, I have always done good deeds and have never done anything that offends the heavens and reason. At this moment, this little bird said in all seriousness, "You see, after I came here, I benefited the entire Li clan. My flame made the Li clan rise. My true fire made the Li clan become one of the 4 great tribes of the Nether region." This little bird said, "I am doing good deeds, accumulating merit, and creating good fortune for all living beings in the world." When Jiangchen heard this, he could not help but wave his hand and said, "Stop bullshitting. Even creating all living beings in the world. Who would believe it?" As he spoke, Jiang Chun directly made his move, forming seals with both hands, wanting to imprison this little bird. However, what surprised Jiang Chun was that the flames on the little bird's body actually burned his mark to ashes. Moreover, there was a wisp of flame that was extremely beautiful, like the 9 heavens obsidian flame. It almost burned Jiang Chun. "What do you want to do? Are you going to suppress me?" The little bird's face was gloomy as it said, "Don't think that you can suppress me just because my cultivation was struck by the heavens. I am the Vermilion Bird King, F***CK. How dare you say it wasn't you? You are the only one in this world whose cultivation has been crippled by the heavens." Jiang Chun jumped up and squinted at her. He said, "You want me to take you out of here and take you back to the divine realm? Are you dreaming?" Don't, brother." At this moment, the little bird's attitude underwent a complete change. He hugged Jiang Chen's calf with his wings and begged, "I'm so pitiful. After being struck here, the Nanming primordial fire in my body is almost exhausted. If I can't return to the God realm before the Nanming primordial fire runs out, I'll really die. You don't know how much Nanming true fire I've bestowed to these Li clan people over the years, hoping to let them become gods and then bring me back to the divine realm. In the end, this king's Nanming true fire is almost used up. None of these weaklings can become gods." The little bird had a gloomy expression, and its heart was filled with anger. When Jiang Chen heard this, he finally understood why no one from the Li tribe had obtained the Nanming primordial fire in the past 100 years. It was because the little bird didn't have much Nanming primordial fire left in its body. It was only enough to save its own life. "You are quite compatible with the 9 Netherworld Phoenix," Jiang Chen thought. Looking at the shameless Vermilion Bird King, he couldn't help but think of the 9 Netherworld Phoenix. If this Vermilion Bird and the 9 Netherworld Phoenix got together, then the sky would probably be overturned. "I can bring you out, but you can't cause trouble," Jiang Chen said in a low voice. "What kind of trouble do you think I can cause in my current state?" The Vermilion Bird King laughed bitterly. "My life is almost gone. Okay. Then let's make a contract. Otherwise, what if you run away after I bring you out?" Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. "Write it down in black and white. Once you're done, I'll bring you out." "Okay." The Vermilion Bird King seemed to be anxious and didn't want to stay any longer. Hence, he agreed immediately. After that, he and Jiang Chun made an equal contract. Neither of them could order the other around. However, there were certain restrictions between them. Speaking of which, how did you know I'm from the God realm? After making the contract, Jiang Chen asked curiously. "Please, I'm the Vermilion Bird King. I've seen more of the world than you have. I can tell what kind of person and what kind of god you are with one look." The Vermilion Bird King curled his lips. "You're just a little divine king." Little divine king? Jiang Chen was confused. Did divine kings have big and small ranks? However, at this point, Jiang Chen thought of the scenes he saw in the ancient Sky Passage ruins. In those scenes, there were more than one divine king. Then, it seemed like divine kings were also divided into high and low ranks. However, how did the Vermilion Bird King know about this? Could it be I'm just a spiritual body now. Hence, I can only reside in the souls of gods. The souls of ordinary people can't withstand my spiritual power at all. The Vermilion Bird King said, "The heavens have eyes and sent me a god. Otherwise, I would have to stay here for the rest of my life until I die, unable to leave." Okay. Stop arguing. Hurry up and come in. It's time to go. Jiangchen said. Whoosh! The Vermilion Bird King turned into a ray of light and charged into Jiangchen's spiritual world. Then, screams and exclamations came from Jiangchen's spiritual world. F*CK? What is this? Emperor's Vine? What the F*CK? Immortal Bird? Wait, this is Myriad Heavenly Lamp? Kid, who are you? Why do you have the Myriad Heavenly Lamp? Faced with the Vermilion Bird King's exclamations, Jiangchen couldn't help but dig his ears and chuckle. Are you envious? Unfortunately, this is all mine. Myriad Heavenly Lamp. Heaven and earth open. Samsara turns again. Myriad Heavenly Lamp returns. At this moment, the Vermilion Bird King fell silent. After a few breaths, a few whispers came. Jiangchen heard it. Although he didn't understand the meaning of these words, he was sure that the Vermilion Bird King was definitely not simple. Chun, don't move. I'll wait for you to return. At this moment, Li Wangshan's voice came from outside the cave. Then, a gentle force rushed into the cave and wrapped around Jiangchen, bringing him out of this place. After coming out of the Nanming cave, a group of people surrounded Jiangchen and stared at him with different expressions. Some were looking forward to something, while others had displeasure in their eyes. How was it? Li Qinxiu asked. Did you get the Nanming primordial fire? Chapter 360. Li Qinxiu, what's there to ask? Even the people of the Li tribe can't get the Nanming primordial fire. How can an outsider like him get it? The leader of the 4th Li tribe mocked. He probably just went in for a walk. That's right. Only the people of the Li tribe can get the Nanming primordial fire. The leader of the 2nd Li tribe said. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Jiangchen said to the Vermilion Bird King in the world of souls, "Come on, show me." How bright? The Vermilion Bird King asked. As bright as possible. Jiangchen said. Boom! The moment he said that, the Vermilion Bird King flapped his wings in Jiangchen's spiritual world. Then a gorgeous flame, like the 9 heavens' mysterious flame, erupted from Jiangchen's body and soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, half of the sky was dyed in the color of scarlet flames. Nanming primordial fire? What? The red flame bloomed in the sky and turned into the shape of a vermilion bird. It was very lifelike. Raging flames soared into the sky, and the scorching temperature caused even space to distort. Everyone within a radius of 1,000 miles thought that the fire god had descended upon the mortal world. Is it bright enough? The Vermilion Bird King asked. Almost, Jiangchen said softly. He looked at the leaders of the 6 tribes and asked, how about now? After he said that, the leaders of the 6 tribes looked at each other and then knelt down. They shouted to Jiangchen, "Greetings, great leader." Ah! Jiangchen was confused. He didn't expect things to turn out like this. How did he become the great clan leader of the entire Li clan? Seeing Jiangchen's confused look, Li Wangshan knelt on the ground and explained, the Li tribe has an ancestral rule. Whoever gets the Nanming primordial fire will be the great leader of the 6 tribes. That is to say, I'm the leader of the Li tribe's 6 major tribes? Jiangchen blinked his eyes, feeling that this happiness came too suddenly. After Jiangchen entered the underworld region, no one could help him except for Li Qinxiu of the 6th tribe. Now that he had become the tribe leader of the Li tribe, Jiangchen was equivalent to having a huge power. In this way, he would have a firm foothold in the underworld continent. As long as his identity wasn't exposed, as long as he didn't encounter the 9 Li dynasty directly, then Jiangchen could do whatever he wanted in the nether region. Rise! At this moment, Jiangchen waved his hand with a strange expression. Back when he was still a divine king, there were people kneeling to him every day. However, ever since he had fallen and been reborn, He had not said the words rise for a very long time. This feeling was really good. Do you see that? This is my son-in-law. I, Li Qianqiu's son-in-law. Li Qianqiu's face was full of excitement, his back was straight, and his face was full of pride. Jiangchen looked at Li Qianqiu unhappily and said, "Look at you. Great tribe leader, we will hold the coronation ceremony for you tomorrow." Li Wangshan said seriously, "For more than 100 years, no one in the Li tribe could be the great tribe leader. Now, the heavens have opened their eyes, and finally, there is someone to inherit this position." Sigh. The Nanming primordial fire has finally reappeared in the world. The second tribe leader of the Li tribe side. Previously, he didn't think highly of Jiangchen and even had some opinions about Jiangchen. However, now, these tribe leaders' attitudes towards Jiangchen had changed greatly. After all, the Nanming primordial fire was too important to the Li tribe. They could ignore the person, but they had to recognize the Nanming primordial fire. This was because the Nanming primordial fire was the reason why the Li tribe could rise and become one of the 4 major tribes in the underworld region. "Let's not hold the coronation ceremony." Jiangchen frowned. He didn't want to make a big deal out of it. After all, he was worried that his identity would be exposed. However, looking at the serious faces of Li Wangshan and the others, Jiangchen could only nod gently and say, "There is no need to make it too grand. Just a little will do." "Yes, great tribe leader." Li Wangshan and the others nodded and then left to prepare for the coronation ceremony. After half a day, when the people of the 5 major tribes had left, Jiangchen and Li Qianqiu came to the main hall. At this moment, Li Qianqiu was full of smiles. When he looked at Jiangchen, his eyes were shining, and Jiangchen's hair stood on end. "What are you looking at?" Jiangchen curled his lips and said, "Are you going to eat me?" No, no, no." Li Qianqiu shook his head and said with a smile, "The more I look at you, the more I like you. It's a pity that I only have 1 daughter. If I had more, I would marry all of them to you." "Don't." Jiangchen hurriedly shook his head. When he thought of Li Qian, he broke out in a cold sweat. What a joke. 1 Li Qian was enough to make Jiangchen suffer. If there were more, Jiangchen's life would be ruined. "I have to emphasize that Li Qian and I are only husband and wife in name. When I enter the reincarnation sea and obtain the reincarnation fairy, this marriage will be annulled," Jiangchen said seriously. I know. Li Qianqiu didn't care. After all, in his heart, as long as they were married, they would be married in name. At that time, Jiangchen would have no choice but to admit it. This is the entry token to attend the underworld feast. Then, Li Qianqiu handed 2 entry tokens to Jiangchen and said, "1 entry token per person is enough." At this point, Jiangchen was also puzzled and asked, "The extra one? I heard that you have many supreme talents around you. Why don't you call one of them over?" Li Qianqiu said, "I don't ask for much. If the person you call can enter the top 100, I will reward him handsomely." "Why is that?" Jiangchen asked. "You don't know that as long as the person who attends the underworld feast enters the top 100, his sect will be greatly nurtured by the 9 Li dynasty. At that time, all the cultivation resources and weapons will be enough to fill up the treasure vault of the 6th Li tribe. You can do that?" Jiangchen was stunned. After thinking carefully, he shook his head and said, "Even if I call someone over, he doesn't know any sorcery and has no status. How can he participate?" "Status? You're still worried about this?" Li Qianqiu was stunned and reminded him, "You are now the Grand Clan leader of the Li tribe. Can't you just arrange an identity for him? As for sorcery, the Li tribe is so big. What's wrong with teaching him a few sorcery?" After hearing this, Jiangchen couldn't help but nod. He thought to himself that he had overcomplicated the problem. However, what happened next gave Jiangchen a headache. This was because there were indeed many supreme talents around Jiangchen. However, who should he call over this time? Zhang Lu was definitely out of the question. That guy was now under the 10 ghosts, and no one knew where he was training. As for Bai Fengyu, Naylan Mayer, and Hua Liani, it was even more impossible. The 3 of them were extremely beautiful. If the 3 of them appeared, Jiangchen's identity would most likely be suspected. After thinking about it carefully, It seemed that only one person was suitable. Chapter 361. Changa, what have you been doing recently? After a few breaths, Jiang Chun contacted Changa through telepathy. What else can I do? Eat, sleep, and kill the 9 Nether Phoenix, Changa said lazily. At the same time, Jiang Chun also heard the 9 Nether Phoenixes scream beside Changa. I say, that's my mount. Take it easy. Jiang Chen's face darkened. He asked, you're not really planning to cook the 9 Nether Phoenix, are you? How could we? Changa said, it's just that this guy is too bad. He brought Dade and caused trouble all day long. Not long ago, he secretly went to the secluded temple and stole Lu Huan's underwear. Jiang Chen was confused. Then he looked serious and said, he deserves a beating. After that, Jiang Chen asked about the situation of the 9 Nether Phoenix and Long Dade. He couldn't help but talk about business. After hearing this, Changa immediately became interested and said, I haven't seen you for a long time since we parted last time. It's a good time to meet up and get to know each other. South of the Nether Continent, Nanming Plain, 6th Li Tribe. I'll wait for you here. Jiang Chen said. Okay, I'll get ready. I'll be there in 3 days. Changa said. After contacting Changa, Jiang Chen talked with Li Chinchio for a while. Finally, he returned to his residence and began to cultivate. Jiang Chen had been in the middle of the Earth realm for a long time. During this time, although he didn't cultivate much, his foundation was very stable. Now, Jiang Chen was going to break through. Jiang Chen even thought that if he could enter the Heaven Realm before the Nether Continent's banquet began, he would have a greater chance of winning the championship and entering the Reincarnation Sea. The Earth Realm used the power of the Earth as a guide to condense the power of the underworld to perform various magical skills. However, for Jiang Chen, the power of the underworld and the power of the heavens didn't matter. He just needed to improve his cultivation. With a high cultivation, what kind of opponent could he not defeat? In the next few days, Jiang Chen did not leave his room. He cultivated in peace and did not even attend the coronation ceremony. Fortunately, all of this was arranged by the 6 great clan leaders. Jiang Chen was also happy to be idle and became a hands-off shopkeeper. However, although Jiang Chen did not pay attention to the outside world, it caused a stir in the outside world. What? The Li clan has a great clan leader? Could it be that someone from the Li tribe has obtained the Nanming primordial fire? Who obtained the Nanming primordial fire? Is there any news? All of a sudden, the other 3 tribes, and even the 9 Li dynasty were very concerned about this matter. They all sent out scouts to investigate. Soon, a rumor spread in the Nether Continent. A young boy at Earth Realm, who carried an azure gold coffin on his back, inherited the position of the Li clan's clan leader. At the same time, more people were puzzled because the scouts could not find out Jiang Chen's identity after some investigation. They only knew that Jiang Chen's other name was Chun Chun. Interesting. Could it be that Chun Chun is the Li clan's hidden genius? Then why is his surname Chun and not Li? Everyone was puzzled. However, the news soon spread that Jiang Chun was Li Chinchio's son-in-law. This dispelled many people's doubts. On the 3rd day, Jiang Chen was cultivating as usual. However, the door of the house was suddenly opened. Then, Changa walked in with a smile on her face. She walked to Jiang Chen's side naturally and touched Jiang Chen's hand. She said emotionally, long time no see. Cough, cough. Don't touch me. Jiang Chen coughed a few times and glanced at Changa. His face fell immediately. This was because Changa had broken through to the Saint Realm. What did the Heavenly Temple feed you? I haven't seen you for a while, and you've become a saint? Jiang Chen was speechless. He had worked hard to cultivate, but Changa had left him in the dust. I'm the only successor of the Heavenly Temple. You can't compare to the cultivation resources I have. Changa smiled. How is it? Are you envious? Would you believe me if I said I'm not? Jiang Chen's face darkened. He was envious of Changa. Then, without waiting for Jiang Chen to speak, Long Dade flew out of Changa's arms and hung on Jiang Chen's neck. He refused to let go no matter what. He even wiped his snot and tears on Jiang Chen's clothes. He looked extremely pitiful. "What's going on?" Jiang Chen asked. Not long after Long Dade was born, he was handed over to the heavenly temple to be disciplined. Now, Long Dade's cultivation had improved a lot, and his body was much thicker. He seemed to be developing well. "That old man in the heavenly temple is very bad. He wants to breed me." Long Dade looked aggrieved and said, "I'm still a child." Ugh. Jiang Chen was dumbfounded. He didn't expect Nian Changa's master to have such a hobby. "Nian Changa, Long Dade has just been born. Why are you in such a hurry to breed him and carry on the family line?" Jiang Chen was speechless. "He's still underage. This is an ancestral dragon," Nian Changa said seriously. "Think about it. If the breeding is successful, we will have an ancestral dragon brigade in the future. How cool it will be when we sneak out." Then, Nian Changa realized that he had said something wrong. He hurriedly corrected himself and said, "Not sneak out, but when we bring him out, an ancestral dragon brigade is enough to sweep the world. It's just an ancestral dragon. What's the big deal?" At this moment, the Vermilion Bird King's spiritual body flew out of Jiang Chen's spiritual world. He looked around with disdain and said, "Back then, I ate at least 5 ancestral dragons, if not 10. What did you say?" "Little Sparrow." Long Dade was not a kind person. He was immediately enraged. His dragon scales stood up, and a dragon breath came out of his mouth. It was like a gust of wind. However, the Vermilion Bird King only flapped his wings lightly, and the dragon aura dissipated. "Yo, you just got an ancestral dragon when you were just born." The Vermilion Bird King laughed. "Why don't you give it to me and let me train it well? It will definitely achieve great things in the future." Jiang Chen hurried to stop. Pulling a long face, he said angrily, "You're going to teach them? Want to be the same as you in the future? What's wrong with me? I'm an upright bird, doing my duty, with the sky as the leader, creating the world." The Vermilion Bird King said seriously, "If this little ancestral dragon follows me, it will become a venerable in the future." That Vermilion Bird King, whose cultivation was destroyed by the heavens? Nian Changa was stunned. He stared at the Vermilion Bird King and saw through his identity. After all, there were all kinds of ancient books in the Tongtian Temple. There were records of some secrets of this world, and even the 9th heaven divine realm. Therefore, when Nian Changa saw the Vermilion Bird King, he thought of the one whose cultivation was destroyed by the heavens. Bullshit. That's a test from the heavens. The Vermilion Bird King was stubborn, but his old face was still slightly red. With a whoosh, he returned to Jiang Chen's spiritual world. Long Dade gritted his teeth and snorted coldly. "A sparrow." Chapter 362. One was the Vermilion Bird King, and the other was the Ancestor Dragon. Both of them had their own noble status and pride. When they looked at each other, they naturally did not like each other. Fortunately, Long Dade was young and did not have enough strength, so he could bear with it. On the other hand, the Vermilion Bird King was only a spiritual body and could not fight. Hence, both of them held their breath and did not fight. At that moment, Jiang Chen and Nian Changa talked about the underworld feast. Nian Changa naturally agreed. Otherwise, she would not have come here. Then the two of them chatted in the room for a while. After asking about each other's situation, they began to cultivate. 3 days later, Li Qianxiu found Jiang Chen early in the morning and said, "The underworld feast, the breeze feast, has begun. It will be held in the Firstly tribe. "Oh, breeze feast?" Jiang Chen was puzzled. Could it be that there were several types of underworld feast? The underworld feast is divided into several stages. The first stage is the breeze feast. It is for the geniuses to familiarize themselves with each other. There is no fighting. Li Qianxiu explained. After that is the imperial feast. It will be held in the 9 Li dynasty. During the imperial banquet, there will be martial arts competitions, as well as competitions of talent. The last stage is the underworld feast. It will be held near the Reincarnation Sea, the ancestral land of the 9 Li dynasty. The underworld feast is the time for the geniuses of the underworld continent to compete. You have to work hard. Zhang Chun didn't say anything when he heard her, because he really wasn't sure that he could win the championship. After all, his cultivation level was too low. According to Li Qianxiu, those who could participate in the underworld feast were all very talented and had high cultivation levels. The weakest one was at the Sage realm. Zhang Chun was only at the middle level of the Earth realm. Compared to those geniuses, his cultivation level was indeed low. Let's go. I will bring you to meet the geniuses of the underworld continent, Li Qianxiu said. Then, under Li Qianxiu's lead, the geniuses of the 6th Li tribe, Jiang Chun and Nian Chang'e, flew towards the 1st Li tribe in the southern Ming Plains. The distance between the various large tribes was not very far. In just half an incense stick's time, the crowd had entered the 1st Li tribe. As soon as he arrived, the upper echelons of the various tribes personally came out to welcome him. After all, the current Jiang Chun was the Li tribe's leader. His status was extremely high. However, Jiang Chun liked to keep a low profile. After giving them a meaningful glance, the higher-ups quietly retreated. Jiang Chun also followed Li Qianxiu into the building. First, the Li tribe was very big, occupying tens of thousands of miles. However, because it was a flat area, the ground was filled with Nanmingli fire. Therefore, the scenery here was not very good. There were only bare hills, and it was difficult to even see a few weeds. However, this did not mean that the southern Ming Plains were barren. On the contrary, the 6 great tribes that lived on the southern Ming Plains were all extremely wealthy. This was because there was a type of, or that was condensed from the Nanmingli fire on this plain that could aid in cultivation. So many people. At this moment, Jiang Chun and the rest had arrived at the square of the tribe. They saw that tens of thousands of people had gathered here. However, with so many people gathered together, it was not that noisy. They all stood by the side or whispered softly. I heard that recently, someone from the Li tribe had taken over the position of the leader. I wonder who this person is? I'm not sure. I heard that it's a young lad with a low cultivation level. The Li tribe has really declined. Even a little brat can become the great tribe leader. Jiang Chun and the rest stood at a corner of the square. Their ears were filled with the voices of the Li tribe's leader. Jiang Chun smiled. He didn't care about it at all. However, Li Qianxiu's face was black. He looked very unhappy. After all, Jiang Chun, the leader of the Li tribe, was his son-in-law. His son-in-law was being gossiped about. As the father-in-law, he was naturally unhappy. We're just going to stand here and not do anything? Nian Chang'e was flustered. It was not easy for her to come out, but she did not expect this so-called Qingfeng banquet to be like this. A group of prodigies stood together. They did not fight or speak. They just looked at each other. This was really a Qingfeng banquet. Logically speaking, it's indeed fine to just stand here. Li Qianxiu said, but young people are always arrogant. Just wait and see. Before long, some people will start fighting. Boom! Just as he finished speaking, 2 youths on the other side of the square flew into the air and started fighting. The elders of these 2 youths did not make a move. They just watched quietly. Another 10-odd breaths passed. Not far away from Jiang Chun and the others, 2 people started to fight. In an instant, a white light and an azure light appeared. They were the prodigies of the Ling tribe in the west and the Chen tribe in the east. Did you see that? Li Qianxiu said with a smile. These prodigies are usually sought after by others. They are high and mighty and arrogant. Now they are fighting together. Will they stop? We just need to stop, Jiang Chun said with a smile. He stood there quietly, his gaze sweeping around from time to time. He was sizing up these people. After all, they would all be his opponents in the future. I heard that the Li tribe has a young tribe leader. Will he be here today? It was at this moment that a youngster holding a sharp sword came forward from a place not far from Jiang Chun. He rose into the air and stood tall in the air. As his eyes opened and closed, there was a bright, white light flickering in them. The prodigy of the Ling tribe in the west. He seems to have a high status. He must be the son of some elder. Li Quan muttered, I think his name is Ling Chong. Ling tribe in the west, Ling Chong. Today I want to meet the young tribe leader of the Li tribe. Ling Chong said loudly. There was a hint of contempt at the corner of his mouth. What? The tribe leader is not here today? Or is he too scared to come? Is the relationship between the Li tribe and the Ling tribe not good? Jiang Chen asked. It's more than bad. Li Qianxiu smiled bitterly. The ancestor of the Li tribe was injured because he killed the ancestor of the Ling tribe. Right now, the Ling clan and my Li clan are mortal enemies, Li Quan added. No wonder he wanted to pick on me. Jiang Chen curled his lips, but he did not step out. After all, other than the people of the Li tribe, no one else knew that he was the tribe leader of the Li tribe. After a few breaths, Ling Chong saw that no one answered him, so he went back in disappointment. He only said, the Li tribe is not good enough. Hey, this kid is a bit arrogant, Nian Chang'e joked. She poked Jiang Chen's shoulder and said, do you want me to teach him a lesson? Don't mess around. Be quiet. Jiang Chen squinted and said, there are so many people. If my identity is exposed, both of us will be finished. Who is he? Middle-earth realm? How dare he come to the Qingfeng banquet with such a cultivation level? All of a sudden, a youngster next to Jiang Chen spoke. He gazed at Jiang Chen, and disdain flickered in his eyes. Chapter 363. He walked towards Jiang Chen, step by step. With every step, his aura grew stronger. By the time he was in front of Jiang Chen, his aura had reached the upper level of the heavenly stage. Even Tom, Dick, and Harry can attend the Qingfeng banquet? The young man raised his eyebrows and pointed outside the square. Get out! I'm really... Jiang Chen's expression was ugly, and he was cursing in his heart. He was already very low-key. He just stood there and did nothing. But trouble still came knocking on his door. The genius of the Qin clan of the East is not very strong, Li Quan said. Why? Do you want to go and practice? Me? Jiang Chen curled his lips and said, my little brother is still here. Why should I, the big brother, fight? As he spoke, Jiang Chen glanced at Nian Chang'e and said, what are you waiting for? Beat him up. Okay. Nian Chang'e had been itching for a long time. After all, he had been locked up in the heavenly temple for so long. It was rare for him to come out. Naturally, he wanted to stretch his legs. As soon as he finished speaking, Nian Chang'e stepped forward and stood in front of the young man. Then, he took out the little book of the Book of Acting Tough and began to read it seriously. After a few breaths, Nian Chang'e's eyes flashed. He stared at a line of words in the little book and said loudly, thou art a dog. Do not be my enemy. What does that mean? Jiang Chen was confused. He secretly thought that the words in Nian Chang'e's little book were really full of pretentious words. Even the young man was confused. He was stunned for a moment and asked subconsciously, what does that mean? Cough, cough. It means that you are a dog. You are not qualified to fight with me. Nian Chang'e coughed softly and then explained seriously. As soon as he said that, the young man exploded in anger. However, when he saw Nian Chang'e's sage cultivation, he couldn't help but shrink his neck and snorted coldly. Tisk, just a sage cultivation. After that, the young man's face darkened and he retreated. But Nian Chang'e was unwilling to give up. He finally had the chance to fight. How could he let his opponent run away like this? Wait, I'll suppress my cultivation and fight you at the same cultivation level. How about that? Nian Chang'e hurriedly said. How about I suppress my realm to the Earth realm and give you a handicap? F***CKU. Don't go too far. The young man shouted angrily. He felt that he had been severely humiliated. It was one thing to fight at the same cultivation level, but he actually dared to give him a handicap of an entire cultivation level. This was intolerable. Come on, Nian Chang'e said with a smile. He really suppressed his cultivation to the Earth realm, and even the lower Earth realm. Where did this arrogant brat come from? Today, I'll teach you a lesson. This youth was also furious. Daring to suppress his cultivation to such a low level. Was he courting death? As soon as he finished speaking, the youth took a step forward. A dim yellow light erupted from his body, and a thick, earthy aura filled the air. A fist came crashing down. The heavy aura was like a mountain. I'll do it. Nian Chang'e spoke softly and pointed his finger at the sky. Then, he He saw the young man's fist being sent flying. Then, Nianchanga took a step forward and landed in front of the young man. She opened her mouth, but froze in place. Wait a minute. Nianchanga looked embarrassed. While the young man looked confused, she took out the booklet again. After a few glances, she said seriously, "Thou art Chu. Do not be my enemy." Then, Nianchanga's face darkened and she muttered, "This sentence is really hard to remember. Have you had enough?" The young man was furious. He felt that his dignity had been trampled on. However, before he could make a move, Nianchanga slapped him and pressed him to the ground. Then, her palm moved horizontally and pressed the young man to the ground, rubbing him against the ground. Boring. After a few breaths, Nianchanga felt that it was boring. She threw the young man away and returned to Jiang Chen's side with a dispirited and disappointed expression. "Brat, you gone too far. How dare you humiliate the Chen clan like this?" At this moment, the young man's clan was furious. Being pressed to the ground and rubbed against him in front of so many people was simply a humiliation. More importantly, it was humiliating the entire Chen clan of the East. He's not strong enough, but he still jumped out to cause trouble. Is it my fault? Nianchanga curled her lips and said indifferently, "What? Are you going to jump out too? Where is this person from?" At this moment, a handsome young man walked out from the Chen clan of the East. He looked elegant and held a folding fan in his hand, like a scholar. Moreover, when he spoke, he gave off a gentle feeling. However, when the people around saw this young man, their expressions changed. Some of them even had a strong sense of fear in their eyes. One of the 10 great prodigies of the Chen clan of the East, Chen Tingji, a sage, someone exclaimed, revealing the young man's identity. In response, Nianchanga still looked indifferent. She smiled and said, "I was invited by a friend to participate in the Qingfeng banquet. The Qingfeng banquet is a part of the Underworld Continent's banquet. Those who are not from the Underworld Continent are not allowed to participate." Chen Tingji said, "Please leave." He's now a member of the Li clan. Li Qinqiu said, "The great clan leader took him in and gave him a slot token. This person is qualified to participate in the Underworld Continent's banquet and the Qingfeng banquet." Hearing this, Chen Tingji's expression changed slightly, and a trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Where's the great clan leader of the Li clan? Didn't he come to the Qingfeng banquet this time?" "He's here," Li Qinqiu said, but did not say that Jiang Chun was the great clan leader. At the same time, Nianchanga picked at her ear and took out the booklet again. After a few glances, she raised her eyebrows and pointed at Chen Tingji, saying, "We cultivators are not afraid of a battle." This guy's brain. The surrounding people were speechless. They could not imagine what was written in Nianchanga's booklet. Moreover, Nianchanga gave people the feeling that she was a fool. "I wanted to meet the great clan leader of the Li clan, but it's a pity that he doesn't dare to show himself," Chen Tingji said softly, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. "Sir, since you want to fight, then I'll accept your challenge." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a breeze exploded from Chen Tingji's body, and a dragon's roar could be heard. This was the unique power of the Chen clan in the East, the East Dragon Breeze. In the next moment, Chen Tingji waved his hand, and a green tornado exploded. As it whistled, the dragon's roar could be heard. Nianchanga was not afraid at all. When he opened and closed his eyes, it was as if there was a universe floating in the bottom of his eyes. His hands danced. His left hand formed a fist seal, and his right hand formed a palm seal. When he pushed out with both hands, a violent force exploded. Like a volcanic eruption, the violent force tore the East Dragon Breeze apart, and then bombarded Chen Tingji's body. However, Chen Tingji did not move at all. There was not even a trace of a wound on his body. Chapter 364. Upon closer inspection, Chen Tingji's body was surrounded by gusts of wind. He looked like a green dragon. His eyes were snow white, but his pupils were green. A pair of dragon horns had appeared on the top of his head. Chen Tingji has cultivated the East Dragon Cool Breeze to such a level. Cool Breeze Dragon. Genius. as expected of one of the top 10 prodigies of the Chun clan of the East. Exclamations could be heard all around. They recognized Chun Tingji's strength. Is the East Dragon cool breeze of the Chun clan of the East all right? Chun Tingji raised his eyebrows, looking proud and aloof. It's all right, Nian Chang'e said honestly, but why do you look so similar to the Dragon Clan? What's your relationship with the Dragon Clan? As soon as Nian Chang'e said this, the group of people couldn't help but be speechless. Some people even rolled their eyes hard, especially those from the Chun clan of the East. Their faces were dark. The Chun clan of the East has nothing to do with the Dragon Clan. Chun Tingji shouted angrily. Don't compare those lowly creatures to the Chun clan of the East. They're neither human nor dragon. Nian Chang'e, beat him up. When Jiang Chen heard that, he narrowed his eyes and felt a little angry. That was because Huang Jiuchong was from the Dragon Clan. Although Jiang Chen and Huang Jiuchong did not have a good relationship, Jiang Chen respected Huang Jiuchong as a person. The two of them had fought many times and had developed some feelings for each other. And now, Chun Tingji was openly looking down on the Dragon Clan. Although Jiang Chen did not do anything, he should at least do something. How should I beat him up? Nian Chang'e asked honestly. Should I kill him or cripple him? This time, it was Jiang Chen's turn to be speechless. It was just a beating. Why did he have to kill and cripple him? Go easy on him. He's one of the top 10 prodigies of the Chun clan after all. Leave him some face, Jiang Chen said. I understand. Nian Chang'e nodded, looking as if he really understood. However, when he attacked again, Jiang Chen's face fell. Nian Chang'e summoned his Dao soul on the spot, and the 36 lotuses floated behind him. In the next moment, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Raging flames and weak water collided, and weapons fell from the sky. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Boom! Boom! After that, everyone only saw colorful scenes and heard rumbling sounds, but they couldn't see Chun Tingji's figure anymore. After several breaths of time, Nian Chang'e put away the 36 lotuses. Only then did everyone see Chun Tingji lying on the ground, covered in blood and twitching nonstop. I say, do you really understand what I mean? Jiang Chen asked with a dark face. If you hit someone, even if you hit them hard, it would still be fine. However, Chun Tingji was one of the top 10 sky prides of the Chun clan. In the end, he was beaten so badly. Not only would Chun Tingji lose face, but the entire Chun clan would lose face as well. You and I are brothers, and our hearts are connected. Of course, I understand what you mean, Nian Chang'e said. Then he frowned and asked, did I misunderstand? Do you want me to cripple him? After saying that, before Jiang Chen could speak, Nian Chang'e took a step forward. An array of cold light flashed on his fingertips, which pierced toward Chun Tingji's dantian. At this moment, Jiang Chen, Li Qinxiu, and the rest of the Chun clan were anxious. Stop! Don't! No! Several voices of persuasion and anger were heard, for they were afraid that Nian Chang'e would really cripple Chun Tingji. Fortunately, at the last moment, an elder of the Chun clan took action in time and neutralized Nian Chang'e's attack. Just hit him a little. Jiang Chen covered his face and said with a wry smile, You are really a fool. Brat, how dare you attack a member of the Chun clan so cruelly? At this moment, the elder of the Chun clan was furious. He stared coldly at Nian Chang'e and said, Ask your elder to come out. My elder? Nian Chang'e was stunned for a moment. He looked at Jiang Chen again, as if asking if he should call his master over. Jiang Chen saw the situation and shook his head immediately. Was this a joke? Nian Chang'e's master was so fierce that he could even eat a divine beast, as if it was his daily meal. If his master were here, the whole place would be turned upside down. What? Are you an orphan? Don't you have any elders? Or are you a bastard? The elder of the Chun clan said coldly. His words were getting more and more unpleasant. At this moment, Nian Chang'e's face was as black as ink, and his eyes were burning with anger. This time he did not look at Jiang Chen. Instead, he crushed a talisman. Buzz! The talisman exploded, and a light door appeared. Then, A lazy voice came from the light door. "What are you doing? You're disturbing my nap. Get out here," Nyan Changa said coldly. "Teach this old thing a lesson for me, who has no morals and is full of shit." Nyan Changa was usually very gentle, and even a little silly and innocent. Jiang Chen rarely saw Nyan Changa angry. Nyan Changa's attitude at this moment was obviously that he was really angry. "Who is it?" At this moment, a surprised voice came from the light door. Then, a one-legged man walked out. He was leaning on a crutch, and in the other hand, he was carrying a giant three-headed hound. Following his appearance, that Qin clan's elder's expression immediately turned ugly. There was even a trace of fear in the depths of his eyes. Three-headed hound? One leg? This is the long-lost purgatory? Around them, the upper echelons of the various clans, as well as some very old people, changed their expressions when they saw the one-legged man. "Young lord, who scolded you?" The purgatory man ignored the crowd and walked to Nyan Changa with the three-headed hound. He asked, "What did they scold you about?" "A bastard, an orphan," Nyan Changa said softly, and a trace of sadness appeared in the depths of his eyes. After hearing this, the purgatory man's originally lazy expression suddenly became ferocious. "His parents are people you have to respect in this lifetime," the purgatory man said coldly. "In this world, the people of the Nyan clan are not people you can slander and insult. This is the Nether Continent." Although the elder of the Qin clan was afraid of the purgatory man, he was not afraid. After all, this was the Nether Continent, their territory. However, the purgatory man did not say much. He just glanced at the elder of the Qin clan coldly, then waved his hand. A scarlet spiritual force burst out and directly shattered the elder's mouth. "This is just a small lesson for you. If there is a next time," the purgatory man said coldly. After a pause, he said, "If there is a next time, the Qin clan in the eastern part of the Nether Continent will be removed from the godless continent." What a big tone! Suddenly, a white-haired elder rushed over. His eyes were fixed on the purgatory man. He said coldly, "Who do you think you are? You're just a loser. Don't think that you're strong just because others call you the purgatory man. In front of me, you're just an ant." Chapter 365. This white-haired old man was very powerful. As soon as he appeared, he angrily rebuked the purgatory warrior. However, the purgatory warrior was completely fearless. He pointed his walking stick at the white-haired old man and said, "Do you want the world to be in chaos?" Many people were dumbfounded. They didn't understand what the purgatory warrior meant. After all, this was Nyan Changa's matter. What did it have to do with chaos? However, when the white-haired old man heard this, a glint flashed across his eyes, and his body trembled involuntarily. "Nyan, could it be?" The white-haired old man muttered a few words and seemed to realize something. He glared at the purgatory warrior and said in a deep voice, "That elder of my Chun clan spoke rudely. You have already taught him a lesson. Let's drop this matter." "Huh? How much backbone do you think you have?" The purgatory warrior didn't give him any face. Bullying him or killing him is fine. However, if you humiliate him, this is not a small matter. After that, the purgatory warrior looked at Nyan Changa and said, "Young lord, is this enough?" Nyan Changa was silent. There was a trace of sadness in the depths of her eyes. It was obvious that the words that the elder of the Qin clan said to her had pierced her heart. Jiang Chen was also curious. Could it be that there was something wrong with Nyan Changa's background? However, Jiang Chen didn't ask. After all, he had been with Nyan Changa for so long, and Nyan Changa had never revealed her identity. Thinking about it, Nyan Changa didn't want to say it herself. Since she didn't want to say it, then there was no need to ask. However, although Jiang Chen wouldn't ask Nyan Changa, Jiang Chen should soothe the grievances and sadness in Nyan Changa's heart. "Young lord, I'll take my leave first." The purgatory being spoke softly and sighed. Then it entered the door of light and disappeared from this place. At that moment, Jiang Chen stepped out and faced the group of Qin clan prodigies. He raised his eyebrows and said, I've long heard of the strength of the Chun clan's prodigies. Today, I'd like to ask for guidance. Who do you think you are? A mere Earth realm cultivator dares to challenge our Chun clan's prodigy. Hell, what a joke. Do any random Tom, Dick, or Harry have the right to challenge the Chun clan's prodigy? In an instant, mocking and disdainful voices sounded from within the Chun clan. That's right. I'm just a nobody here who wishes to challenge the geniuses of the Chun clan. I wonder if the geniuses of the Chun clan would be willing to give me some face? Jiang Chen laughed out. He wasn't angered by these words at all. Nian Changa smiled and said, I'm fine. You don't have to do this. But I have something to do. Jiang Chun stared at Nian Changa and said seriously, you and I are brothers, just like brothers. When his hand hurt, he used his foot. If your foot is twisted, use your hand to support it. I'm really fine, Nian Changa said. However, Jiang Chun ignored Nian Changa and looked at the group of geniuses of the Chun clan again. He asked what? Don't you dare? Little Wu, go and meet him. In the face of Jiang Chen's continuous provocations, the Chun clan had no choice but to accept the challenge. After all, so many people were watching. If the Chun clan didn't accept the challenge, wouldn't it be considered a coward? At that time, he would not be able to keep his face. Moreover, because of Nian Changa, the Chun clan had lost face. Now, the Chun clan wanted to save some face. Chun Wu, Lower Earth Realm. At that moment, a slightly short young man walked out from the Chun clan. His cultivation level was slightly lower than Jiang Chen's. However, the proud and aloof expression on his face was extremely conspicuous. You look down on me so much? Jiang Chen chuckled. It's fine if you send someone of the same cultivation level, but to send someone of a lower cultivation level than me. Interesting. You're just a nobody. I'm lower than you, but I can crush you. Chen Wu said arrogantly. Is that so? Jiang Chen said softly. The light of the sun and moon flickered in his eyes, and an invisible pressure exploded from his body. Buzz! In the next moment, the crowd saw that Jiang Chen didn't make a move, but Chen Wu flew out like a kite with a broken string. Along the way, blood splattered. When he fell to the ground, his eyes rolled back, and he fainted. Is this all the Chun clan's genius can do? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows and said, You're not even qualified for me to make a move. Kid, don't be so arrogant. Your cultivation level is higher than Chen Wu's. It's normal for him to lose to you. The Chun clan people shouted angrily. You were the one who sent him out. Why? Now that you've lost, you feel embarrassed? Jiang Chen said mockingly. Why don't you send another person whose cultivation level is higher than mine? Ignorant fool. An elder of the Chun clan shouted angrily. Then he nodded at a burly young man beside him. Then the young man walked out from the crowd and stood 10 meters away from Jiang Chen. His face was ferocious, and he said coldly, Chen Bao, Lower Heaven State. Oh! Jiang Chen nodded calmly. Then, the light of the sun and moon exploded in his eyes again. Suddenly, the crowd saw Chen Bao standing rooted to the ground, as if he had lost his mind. Then, under the horrified gaze of the crowd, Chen Bao's body started to tremble violently. Then, his knees bent, and he knelt in front of Jiang Chen. Ah, what's wrong with you? Jiang Chen was surprised and said, I'm just a nobody. Why do you have to kneel in front of me? Hurry up and get up. Look at the ugly faces of your clansmen. What the F*** CK? Chen Bao roared in his heart. He was furious, but his body was out of his control. Under Jiang Chen's yin-yang eyes, Chen Bao's mind was controlled, and he couldn't control his body. Kid, you've gone too far. At that moment, an elder of the Chun clan shouted angrily. With a wave of his hand, a terrifying palm print shot towards Jiang Chen. Luckily, Li Qianxiu intervened in time and dispersed the palm print. What? The young one can't beat me, so the old one has to intervene? Jiang Chen said mockingly. Do you want to start a war? As soon as he said that, the Chun clan elder's eyes flashed with contempt, and he said, Start a war? Start a war with you? You're just an ant. How can you start a war? I can kill you with a single palm. Try me. You dare? Try me if you have the guts. As soon as he said that, the 6 clan leaders of the Li clan stood behind Jiangchen. The gazes of the 6 of them were locked onto the Chen clan leader. Their expressions and eyes were filled with coldness. This scene caused the crowd to feel puzzled and even more astonished. What's going on? The 6 clan leaders of the Li clan are supporting this young man. Could it be? This young man is... Soon the crowd realized something. Someone even exclaimed, "He's the clan leader of the Li clan?" At that moment, Jiangchen smiled and said, "I'm the clan leader of the Li clan. Am I a nobody?" As soon as he said that, the faces of the Chen clan members turned ugly, especially the Chen clan elder. His face was dark, and he didn't dare to make a sound in front of the 6 clan leaders of the Li clan. Chapter 366. The Li tribe has really declined. They let a kid in the middle position of the Earth realm be their leader. At that moment, an elder from the Ling tribe in the west said sarcastically, "Why? Is there no one else in the Li tribe?" Haha! What's even more laughable is that this person is not even from the Li tribe. I heard that he's only Li Chinchio's son-in-law. Another elder from the Ling tribe laughed, his voice full of contempt. The people from the Li tribe were naturally unhappy about this, but they could not refute it. After all, Jiangchen was indeed an outsider. At most, he could only be considered half a member of the Li tribe. As the leader of the Li tribe, how many skills have you learned from the Li tribe? Don't tell me you don't know any of them? Haha, he's just an outsider. What can he learn from the Li tribe? He's just using it to embarrass himself. In the surroundings, jeers rang out one after another. Mocking and disdainful voices rang out incessantly. Jiangchen frowned slightly. These people were obviously targeting him. Since that was the case, Jiangchen would not hold back. What is the Li tribe best at? Jiangchen looked at the group of people from the Ling tribe and asked. The Li tribe controls the Nanming primordial fire and attacks violently. Naturally, they're best at fighting. A youth from the Ling tribe said provocatively. How about it? Come out and show us what you got. Didn't I already show you what I got? Jiangchen said mockingly. If you don't believe me, you can ask the Chen tribe. Once this was said, the expressions of the people from the Chen tribe turned ugly. This was because in these 2 battles, Jiangchen did not even make a move. He crushed the 2 prodigies from the Chen tribe in an extremely domineering manner. And to the Chen tribe, this was a humiliation. However, Jiangchen was the leader of the Li tribe. In front of so many people, the Chen tribe could not take revenge. Of course, the Chen tribe could send someone with a higher cultivation level to fight Jiangchen. However, the Chen tribe could not bring themselves to crush Jiangchen with their cultivation level. The Chen tribe is the Chen tribe. The Ling tribe is the Ling tribe. The youth from the Ling tribe said, "Why? Do you not dare to fight me?" "Why wouldn't I dare?" Jiangchen said mockingly. "It's just that your cultivation is a little high." This young man from the Ling clan was at the upper level of the heaven realm. He was a full realm higher than Jiangchen. With your status as the Li clan's grand clan leader and my cultivation level being higher than yours, you should be able to put up a fight, right? Otherwise, you'll become a laughingstock, the young man from the Ling clan said provocatively. Obviously, this young man from the Ling clan knew that Jiangchen was very strong and was deliberately provoking Jiangchen. As for himself, it was impossible for him to suppress his cultivation to fight with Jiangchen. This young man was very smart. However, he didn't know that Jiangchen's cultivation at the middle stage of the Earth realm was enough to fight against a saint. You're right. As the Grand Clan leader of the Li tribe, if I don't have some strength, I'll really be a disgrace to the Li tribe. Jiangchen laughed. Then, Jiangchen took a step forward. He looked at the young man from the Ling clan and said, "Come at me." Huh. The young man from the Ling clan snorted. His face was full of disdain. In the next moment, he charged forward. His whole body was shining with white light. There was also a violent, sharp golden aura. This was the unique power of the Ling clan in the West, the Shi Ling Platinum power. This power was inherited from the white tiger of the 4 mythical beasts. The white tiger was in charge of killing. Therefore, The Shi Ling Platinum power was naturally filled with a terrifying, killing aura. However, before the young man could reach Jiang Chun, everyone saw a ray of moonlight explode from Jiang Chen's body. Then, a bright moon appeared out of nowhere and flashed across the sky. Before the young man from the Ling clan could react, the bright moon had already hit him. The light of the bright moon was comparable to the sun. Under the moonlight, the Shi Ling Platinum power on the young man's body shattered. He was sent flying. Blood splattered everywhere. It was a glaring sight. With my strength, I didn't embarrass the Li clan, right? Jiang Chen smiled and looked at the young man from the Ling clan. He mocked him. Is it okay? You. The young man from the Ling clan was furious. However, he did not dare to attack again. After all, the outcome of this battle had already been decided. Let me take you on. At this moment, a young man from the Ling clan, who was a lower sage, stepped forward. He stood tall and straight. His hair danced in the wind. His aura was like a rainbow that pierced through the clouds and tore apart the clouds in the sky. He walked over step by step. The aura of a sage exploded. It was as if a king had descended. Put away your sage aura. In my eyes, it is just a breeze. Jiang Chen curled his lips. He was not even afraid of the aura of a deity. What was a mere sage aura to him? Sword sweep in all directions. At this moment, the young man reached out and clenched his fist. The power of the Shi Ling Platinum power turned into a long sword. Then, he slashed out 8 rays of sword light across the sky. They flew towards Jiang Chun from all directions. The sword light was dazzling and shone with white divine light. The air was distorted by the sword light. Even the space was cracking. Black cracks appeared. Sword Sage? Jiang Chun whispered. He subconsciously wanted to take out Chasing Heaven. However, when he remembered that his identity could not be exposed, Jiang Chun could only smile bitterly. Then, just as the 8 rays of sword light were about to land on him, Jiang Chun pointed all 10 of his fingers. Lines of runes flowed in front of him. In an instant, a huge defensive array appeared. There were many runes on the array. They were complicated, and profound. They gave off a heavy feeling. Above the array, 7 stars shone. As they rotated, the starlight exploded and blocked the 8 rays of sword light. In the end, they dissipated. Oh, so you're an array master. The young man from the Ling clan raised his eyebrows and said disdainfully, It's a pity that an array master in the middle position of the Earth realm can't block my sword. Who told you that I'm an array master? Jiang Chen smiled mockingly. The power of heaven and earth in his body turned into a big bow, and the power of the netherworld turned into an arrow. In the next moment, Jiang Chen drew the bow and knocked the arrow. After the sound of the arrow piercing through the arrow flashed past like a shooting star, causing the air to rumble. Array and arrow dual cultivation? The young man from the Ling clan exclaimed. He was full of vigor, but his expression was still full of confidence. After all, the difference in cultivation was too great. He did not believe that Jiang Chen's arrow could do any harm to him. In fact, he was so arrogant that he did not defend himself and allowed Jiang Chen's arrow to hit his body. Boom! With an explosion, the arrow shattered. It was indeed unable to penetrate the young man's protective spiritual energy. That's all you've got? You can't even break my protective spiritual energy. What are you going to use to fight me? The young man said disdainfully. However, as soon as he finished speaking, there were exclamations all around. They saw Jiang Chun draw his bow continuously. The power of heaven and earth exploded. In a short span of 3 breaths, he shot out more than 10,000 arrows. If 1 arrow doesn't work, then 2. If 2 arrows don't work, then endless arrows, Jiang Chun said with a smile. As he spoke, he drew his bow. Arrows flew out one after another, as if they were free. Chapter 367. The young man from the Ling clan was in a mess. He stood where he was and was drowned by the rain of arrows. However, he was a sage after all. His protective spiritual energy was extremely strong. Moreover, The body of a sage was comparable to that of a sage's body. As such, he was fine. The young man from the Ling clan even wondered how much spiritual energy a cultivator at the middle stage of the Earth realm could have. When his spiritual energy was exhausted, he could counterattack. However, after the time it took for an incense stick to burn it past, Jiang Chun was still shooting arrows. Sharp arrows fell from the sky one after another. He didn't show any sign of stopping. At the same time, the young man from the Ling clan was covered in cold sweat. His spiritual energy was about to be exhausted. After all, blocking so many arrows would consume a little bit of spiritual energy. However, the point was that even a little bit of spiritual energy was not a small amount. Moreover, he had held on for half an hour. Even if he was a sage, his spiritual energy would be exhausted. This kid, how much spiritual energy does he have in his body? Oh my God, it's really endless. The surrounding people were already dumbfounded. Jiang Chun was like a perpetual motion machine. He's really a monster. That sage from the Ling clan is really pitiful. He was shot at for half an hour. The people from the other tribes mocked. Why are you still standing? After another half an hour, Jiang Chun felt that his arm was a little sore. He could not help but mutter. His voice was not loud, but everyone around could hear him. At this moment, someone's face darkened. He could not help but ask, "How can you still shoot? If he doesn't fall, of course I can still shoot," Jiang Chun said truthfully. With a heavenly star, the spiritual energy in his body would never be exhausted. Even if he had to shoot for a whole day, Jiang Chun could do it. However, his arm was too sore. Stop, stop, stop. I'm not fighting anymore. I'm not fighting anymore. After another half an hour, the young man from the Ling clan finally could not hold on under the rain of arrows. The spiritual energy in his body had been forcefully exhausted by Jiang Chun, and at this moment, he was simply unable to block the rain of arrows. When Jiang Chun heard this, he smiled bitterly. His hands were really sore. After putting away the longbow and removing the arrow, Jiang Chun wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and sighed. So tired. Are you tired? The Ling clan youth's face fell as he cursed in his heart. Why are you so tired? I didn't say I was tired even after being shot by you for 4 whole hours. Why are you tired? If I hadn't been careless at the beginning and given you a chance to attack, I could have suppressed you with just a lift of my hand, the young man from the Ling clan said coldly. He still wanted to save some face for himself. You speak as if it's true. Stop fooling around. You've already been shot at by arrows for 4 hours. What are you still talking about? Aren't you embarrassed? You were a saint after all. The people from the other tribes mocked, especially when they said the word saint. Everyone emphasized the word. It's really tiring for me to be the great clan leader. Jiang Chun rubbed his shoulders and arms and smiled bitterly. If not for the fact that he could not use some tricks and was worried about exposing his identity, Jiang Chun would not have to waste time with this young man from the Ling clan. If it was in the past, Jiang Chun would have directly attacked and suppressed the other party. The great clan leader of the Li clan may not have a high cultivation, but you are indeed powerful. At this moment, a young man from the Northern Flood tribe walked over and smiled. The Li clan controls fire. Not only are they good at fighting, but they are also good at refining pills. I wonder if you, the great clan leader, know how to refine pills? When he said this, Jiang Chun slowly shook his head and said, "Refining pills? I know a little about it. I know a little about it too. Why don't I refine a cauldron?" The young man from the Flood tribe said. As he spoke, he waved his hand. 2 cauldrons and dozens of herbs appeared in front of the 2 of them. It was obvious that this young man was prepared. It's over. He just became the great clan leader of the Li clan. We haven't even taught him how to refine pills. At this moment, the clan leaders of the 6 tribes were anxious. Their foreheads were covered in cold sweat. They were afraid that Jiang Chun would lose. After all, Jiang Chun was the great clan leader. If he lost, the Li clan would lose face. Most importantly, the Li clan was the best at refining pills out of the 4 tribes of the underworld continent. And if he lost in the strongest domain, then he would lose a lot of face. Don't worry, my son-in-law knows everything. Li Qianxiu was very confident. After all, he knew Jiang Qin's identity. In his heart, the divine king was omnipotent. I'm afraid of losing face. At this moment, Jiang Qin said awkwardly, my alchemy skills are not very good. It's just a friendly competition. The young man from the Flood tribe smiled. A trace of mockery flashed across his eyes. He was the best alchemist in the younger generation of the Flood tribe. He was a 7-star alchemist. In his eyes, Jiang Chun was strong. However, it was hard to say when it came to alchemy. I'm afraid you'll lose face. Jiang Chun thought to himself. Competing with him in alchemy? This kid probably doesn't know how to spell the word lose face. Come on, let's begin. Then, the young man from the Flood tribe made a hand seal and poured the herbs into the cauldron. Then, he used his spiritual energy as the fire and made a complicated hand seal. It looked like a high-level alchemy technique. In this regard, Jiang Chun was very ordinary. He threw all the herbs into the cauldron. Then, he made a hand seal and a talisman appeared. He pressed it on the cauldron. Then, Jiang Chun did not move. He stood quietly on the spot. You're not refining pills? You don't control the fire? The young man from the Flood tribe asked curiously. He can refine them himself, Jiang Chun said with a smile. As soon as he said that, a refreshing fragrance came out of Jiang Chun's cauldron. A rainbow-colored cloud slowly rose from within the pill furnace. At the same time, a purple lightning bolt suddenly fell from the clear sky and blasted Jiang Chun's cauldron. What? The cauldron produces a pill fragrance and opens the cauldron with lightning. Well, what kind of pill is this? It's beyond heaven grade? At this moment, everyone exclaimed. Even the young man from the Flood tribe was dumbfounded. This was because when the purple lightning struck down and shattered the pill furnace, a crimson-red pill that flickered with purple light and was filled with divine light floated in front of everyone. On the surface of the pill, there were traces of purple lightning flashing. There were also obscure runes flowing on the surface of the pill. Sacred grade pill. What pill is this? Some people exclaimed, while others were confused. They could not tell what pill it was. When Jiang Chun heard that, he said softly, Sacred grade tribulation pill. What? Impossible! Instantly, exclamations sounded again. At the same time, the young man from the Flood tribe exclaimed, Impossible! This was because the two of them used the same herbs, and these herbs could not be used to refine the tribulation pill. Why is it impossible? Jiang Chun asked. Is it because you can't refine it, so you think it's impossible? Chapter 368. The young man from the Flood tribe was highly skilled in alchemy. He knew a lot about alchemy and knew that the herbs he gave Jiang Chun were the same as the ones he used. Therefore, it was impossible for him to refine the Tribulation Transcendence pill. But now, what was with this Tribulation Transcendence pill? This must be fake, the young man from the Flood tribe said in a low voice. The Tribulation Transcendence pill is only effective during Tribulation Transcendence. Just because you say it's a Tribulation Transcendence pill, it's a Tribulation Transcendence pill? What proof do you have? So you're saying that I have to find someone to help me with Tribulation Transcendence? Jiang Chun asked with a smile. Of course. If you don't, how can you prove that this is a Tribulation Transcendence pill? The young man from the Flood tribe raised his eyebrows. You'd better admit it quickly. This is not a Tribulation Transcendence pill. The Li tribe leader is really unscrupulous in order to win. He actually lied in front of so many people. What a joke. How shameful. This pill is indeed of high quality, but it's a different story if it's not a Tribulation Transcendence pill. Around them, some people were mocking and others were trying to stir up trouble. At the same time, Li Qianxiu and the others' expressions turned ugly. I say, is this really a Tribulation Transcendence pill? Li Qianxiu asked through telepathy. This was because he knew the herbs needed to refine the Tribulation Transcendence pill. The herbs given by the young man from the Flood tribe were not enough to refine the Tribulation Transcendence pill. Even you don't believe me? Jiang Chun curled his lips and chuckled. He looked at the young man from the Flood tribe and said, Tribulation Transcendence, right? Sure. What do you mean? The young man from the Flood tribe was stunned. However, as soon as he said that, the crowd saw a divine light erupt from Jiang Qin's body. The power of the earth and the underworld erupted from his feet. Like a flood, it enveloped Jiang Qin. Then, in a few breaths' time, Jiang Qin's cultivation level broke through from the middle level of the earth realm to the upper level of the earth realm. You can't be thinking that you can pass the tribulation just like that. What a joke. Only true geniuses would attract heavenly tribulations when breaking through. Moreover, the heavenly tribulation could only be drawn when one broke through a major realm. You, on the other hand, have only broken through a small realm, and you think you can attract the heavenly tribulation? Many people mocked. Their words were filled with disdain. Actually, as long as I want it, even if I don't break through, I can still attract the heavenly tribulation. Jiang Qin shrugged nonchalantly. However, it just so happens that it's about time for me to break through. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a few explosions suddenly sounded in the originally clear sky. After that, a crimson-gold tribulation cloud floated up into appearance, and there were even bolts of lightning surging within the tribulation cloud. Those thunderbolts were like golden swords, and they were burning with flames. There was also a cold wind that was as black as ink howling. What kind of heavenly tribulation is this? I've never seen it before. There seems to be no record of it in the ancient books. Everyone was dumbfounded. They only felt that this heavenly tribulation was very violent, but they didn't know what it was called. Even Jiang Qin was dumbfounded. He secretly wondered why the heavenly tribulation this time was so unusual. In fact, even Jiang Qin himself didn't know what the name of this heavenly tribulation was. However, compared to the previous heavenly tribulations, this one was obviously much more terrifying. You said this isn't a tribulation elixir. Then I will show you. Jiang Qin whispered and swallowed the elixir he brewed. Then, an obscure aura began to spread from his body. Under this aura, the heavenly tribulation began to shake violently. The tribulation cloud seemed to have turned into an eye that looked down on the ground, as if it was searching for a target. Under the effects of the tribulation elixir, Jiang Qin's aura was completely hidden. Even the heavens couldn't sense where Jiang Qin was. Just like that, after a few seconds, the heavenly tribulation seemed to have disappeared because it couldn't find Jiang Qin. Now you can prove that this is a tribulation elixir, right? Jiang Qin mocked. Why? The Hong tribe youth was shocked. He couldn't understand why the ingredients he gave Jiang Qin could be used to brew a tribulation elixir. Why what? Why do you have so many whys? Jiang Qin mocked. Alchemy. You are still too inexperienced. Then Jiang Qin glanced around and became serious. He said loudly, I'm Qin Shun, the great chieftain of the Li clan in the Nanming Plain. Who wants to give it a try? As soon as these words came out, the surrounding people fell silent. Those with higher cultivation than Jiang Qin didn't want to lower themselves to bully Jiang Qin. And those whose cultivation levels were lower than Jiang Qin's wouldn't be a match for him. If they competed in other things, such as alchemy, they wouldn't be Jiang Qin's match. As such, who would dare to step forward and give it a try? You are indeed the Li tribe leader. Today I have learned a lot. At this moment, an elder from the Qin tribe said sarcastically, It's a pity that his cultivation is too low. I'm afraid he won't even be able to enter the top 100 in the Underworld State Banquet. Not to mention the Underworld State Banquet. He won't even be able to enter the Imperial Court Banquet after the Qingfeng Banquet. Within the Chun tribe, many people spoke one after another. The contempt in their words was not concealed at all. Whether or not I can advance in the Imperial Court Banquet, you don't have to worry about that. Jiang Qin smiled and said, Since we have all met, this Qingfeng Banquet is meaningless to me. If there is nothing else, I will take my leave first. With that, Jiang Qin turned around and was about to leave. However, before he could take a few steps, a young man walked out from the crowd. He was wearing a yellow robe and had delicate features. His steps were like dragons and tigers, and he had the demeanor of an emperor. Li tribe leader, Qin Qin? This young man took a few steps and blocked in front of Jiang Qin. When he opened and closed his eyes, there was a trace of an emperor's aura floating. Yes. Jiang nodded softly. His expression was calm, but he was a little cautious in his heart. This was because who else could attend the Qingfeng banquet, wear a yellow robe, and have the aura of an emperor other than the prince of the Nine Li dynasty? Then, this prince had not made a move before. Now, when Jiang Chun was about to leave, he suddenly blocked his way. What was going on? Where are you from? At this moment, this prince stared at Jiang Chun. An array of light flashed in his eyes. Seeing this, Jiang Chen's heart thumped. This was because the light in this prince's eyes was the heavenly eye. Fortunately, this person's heavenly eye had not been completely opened. Otherwise, Jiang Chen's identity would definitely be exposed. A small village in the south of the underworld state, very close to the Li tribe, Jiang Chen said, "My master did not allow me to reveal too much." "Oh, then can you tell me what your master's name is?" the prince asked. His master is called Xiong Mo. Just as Jiang Chun was thinking of how to fabricate a master, Nian Chang'e, who was at the side, spoke. "Xiong Mo?" At this moment, this prince's expression changed greatly. After exclaiming softly, he smiled and said, "It's nothing. I was just curious." With that, this prince turned around and frowned. He did not say another word and left the place. Chapter 369. Xiong Mo. After the prince left, Jiang Chun asked curiously, "My family raised a beast, and now it's exiled to the southern part of the nether continent." Nian Chang'e said, "Don't worry. Although Xiong Mo is not qualified in front of the heavenly temple, in the eyes of outsiders, he's still a strong man." "Oh, won't that prince be suspicious?" Jiang Chen asked. "If he's suspicious, he'll go find Xiong Mo," Nian Chang'e joked. "But does he have the guts to find Xiong Mo?" Nian Chang'e's master raised many pets, including many real dragons and real phoenixes. Xiong Mo, who Nian Chang'e was talking about, used to be a pet of his master. However, for some reason, he was expelled from the heavenly temple and exiled to the nether continent in the Naming Plain. However, Nian Chang'e did not say much, nor did he tell Xiong Mo what it was. He only told Jiang Chun that if he really needed Xiong Mo in the future, he could go find him. Moreover, under normal circumstances, no one would suspect that Jiang Chun was Xiong Mo's disciple. As for why, Nian Chang'e didn't elaborate. Jiang Chun was too lazy to ask, as long as his identity was not exposed. Then they left. The Qingfeng banquet did not last long, and all the major tribes and geniuses left one after another. After all, the Qingfeng banquet was just for everyone to meet and familiarize themselves with their opponents. After returning to the Sixth Li tribe, Jiang Chun and Nian Chang'e returned to the room. As soon as she came back, Nian Chang'e looked towards Jiang Chun seriously and asked, "Don't you have any questions? If you don't want to say, why should I ask?" Jiang Chun said with a smile, "Everyone has their own secrets." Alas! Nian Chang'e raised his head and sighed. A trace of reminiscence flashed in his eyes. After a long time, Nian Chang'e said, "Actually, my real name is not Nian Chang'e. My surname is Chang'in." "Ah, there's such a surname?" Jiang Chun was stunned. But thinking that the world was so big and full of strange things, it was not strange to have a surname Chang'in. However, Jiang Chen's expression quickly turned serious as he thought of a clan. "Chang'in clan. What do you think of?" Nian Chang'e stared at Jiang Chun and said, "My surname is Chang, and my name is Chang'e. Whether the world is in chaos or not, Chang'in has the final say." Jiang Chun narrowed his eyes. "You wouldn't really be a member of the Chang'in clan, would you?" "Otherwise," Nian Chang'e said with a wry smile, "but that's all in the past. The Chang'in clan disappeared overnight. It is said that they were exterminated." Jiang Chen's voice was low. He patted Nian Chang'e's shoulder and said, "Well, I don't know how to comfort people." However, Nian Chang'e shook his head and said with a smile, "The Chang'in clan has never been destroyed. It was a disaster. Only my parents died. The rest of the Chang'in clan are still around. It's just that it's hard for them to come out. However, once it is born, whether the world is in chaos or not, it will still be up to the Chang'in clan to decide." At this point, Nian Changa's eyes drooped slightly and said, "After a while, I will go to the ancestral land and release them all. I'll accompany you," Jiang Chun said seriously. Although Jiang Chun did not know what disaster the Chang and clan had experienced back then. However, now that they were brothers, he naturally had to help Nian Changa's matter. At the same time, Jiang Chun was also puzzled. The people of the Chang and clan could not come out now. They should be sealed or trapped somewhere. Then, how did Nian Changa come out? Why had Nian Changa changed her surname and joined the Heavenspan Shrine? What secrets were hidden in this? Don't think about it. You will know in the future, Nian Changa said. Then, the two of them talked and sat quietly together cultivating. Time passed by slowly, until 5 days later. On this day, the geniuses of the 6 major tribes of the Li clan gathered together. They were led by their respective clan leaders and gathered in the 6th Li clan tribe. Jiang Chun and Nian Changa had been waiting in the square early in the morning. After everyone had gathered, they got up and flew towards the central part of the underworld continent, where the 9 Li dynasty was located. That was because today was the first day of the Imperial Banquet. The Imperial Banquet was held for 3 days. On the first day, the competition was for alchemy, array, and craftsmanship. Those who performed well could directly advance to the second day of the competition regardless of their cultivation level. The competition on the second day was for martial arts, which was the most common kind. On the third day, it was a little special. It was not a battle between the participants, but a battle with the puppets of the 9 Li dynasty. In the end, 100 people would advance to participate in the final Underworld Continent Banquet. Moreover, in every Underworld Continent Banquet, the 9 Li dynasty would choose one person to become the emperor's son-in-law of the 9 Li dynasty. In this regard, Nian Changa had already inquired about it. She felt guilty at that time. That was because he heard that none of the princesses of the 9 Li dynasty in this generation were good-looking. They were all ugly. There were even rumors that some of them were so ugly that one could not look at them directly. Nian Changa pointed at his face and said to Jiang Chun seriously, "With my handsome face, it's really possible for me to be chosen. When the time comes for me to become the emperor's son-in-law of the 9 Li dynasty, I feel terrible." Jiang Chun rolled his eyes when he heard that. Then he touched his face and thought to himself, "Luckily, I disguised myself. Otherwise, with my looks, I would definitely be chosen as the emperor's son-in-law." Of course, there were many people who had the same thoughts as Jiang Chun and Nian Changa. After all, men were somewhat narcissistic. However, if Jiang Chun did not disguise himself with his looks and strength, he would definitely become the emperor's son-in-law of the 9 Li dynasty. The group flew all the way. After half a day, they arrived at the 9 Li dynasty. After entering the imperial city, they could not fly in the air. They landed on the ground and walked along the skyward avenue towards the imperial palace. Along the way, Jiang Chun saw a few acquaintances. Among them, there was the young man from the Flood tribe who competed with him in alchemy. There was also the young man from the Chun tribe who knelt on the ground because of him. As the saying went, when enemies met, their eyes blazed with hatred. These few young men glared at Jiang Chun along the way. Judging by their looks, they could not wait to skin Jiang Chun alive. Have you heard? Those princesses of the 9 Li dynasty of this generation simply can't be looked at directly. That's right. If you're chosen as the emperor's son-in-law, your life will be over. On the way, Jiang Chun heard these voices the most. Jiang Chun chuckled and patted Nian Changa's shoulder. He asked, "Do you need to disguise yourself? What do you think?" Nian Changa said angrily. As he spoke, he had already disguised himself and turned his appearance into a hideous mess. Who said that the princesses of the 9 Li dynasty are ugly? At that moment, an ear-piercing voice suddenly came from the crowd. The voice was rather sharp. It was neither male nor female. Many people looked over and happened to see a fair-skinned scholar looking at the few young men beside him with dissatisfaction. Chapter 370. As far as I know, the 9th princess of the 9 Li dynasty is as beautiful as a fairy. She can be said to have descended from the heavens. The scholar glared and argued with a few youths beside him. Come on, who doesn't know that the Ninely dynasty's princess of this generation is very ugly? That's right, whoever becomes the prince consort is unlucky. Many people mocked, as if they had already determined that the Ninely dynasty's princess was not good-looking. I'm telling the truth. The scholar was anxious and said, However, before he could finish his sentence, the scholar shut his mouth. He glared fiercely at the surrounding youths and didn't say another word. While walking, Jiangchen sized up the delicate scholar out of the corner of his eye. He couldn't help but curl his lips slightly. He said to Nian Chang'e, who was next to him, in a low voice, "This scholar is interesting. She's just a woman dressed as a man. What's so interesting about that?" Nian Chang'e pursed her lips. There were many women dressed as men these days. Perhaps she, Jiang Chun said meaningfully, but before he could finish, he heard a few angry shouts from the scholar. In the blink of an eye, they saw a young man wearing a fiery red robe with one hand on the scholar's shoulder. He even moved his head closer to the scholar's face and said, "Little girl, where is your family's elder?" "Who's a little girl?" The scholar glared at the other party and slapped the youth's hand away. "You're so rude." "Ah, a woman dressed as a man. She's quite pretty," the youth said teasingly. "Why don't you follow me from now on? I'm the young lord of Fire Cloud Mountain. If you follow me, you won't have to worry about food and drink in the future. Fire Cloud Mountain is nothing." The scholar rebuked angrily, and a trace of arrogance flashed in his eyes. However, his words were like thunder in the ears of the others. That was because there were not only the 4 major tribes in the underworld continent, but also other sects and forces. Fire Cloud Mountain was one of them. Moreover, Fire Cloud Mountain was an extremely powerful sect. It was said that the patriarch of Fire Cloud Mountain had lived for 1,000 years, and his cultivation was unfathomable. It was said that he had reached the celestial decay stage. What did the celestial decay stage mean? That was an expert who was about to become a god. Even the 4 great tribes of the underworld region did not dare to say that the Fire Cloud Mountain was nothing. What an arrogant tone. "May I know where Miss is from?" At that moment, a fierce look flashed in the eyes of the young lord of Fire Cloud Mountain. He spread open his hand and grabbed the scholar's shoulder. Furthermore, there were raging flames surging on his body. The color was pink, and it was extremely bewitching. "It's really people from Fire Cloud Mountain. Fire Cloud, evil fire," someone exclaimed. Quite a number of people retreated into the distance. Clearly, they feared the young master of Fire Cloud Mountain and did not wish to interact with him any further. Legend has it that the Fire Cloud evil flame can disturb the spirit and soul. It can even confuse the opponent's mind and make them lose their sense of self. Someone said, "This is a kind of evil flame. It's also known as fire." Sigh. It's a pity that this little girl just had to pretend to be the young master of Fire Cloud Mountain. Someone sighed. It's said that the young lord of Fire Cloud Mountain, Xing Ao, was born lecherous. He used this fire cloud, evil fire, to harm many ladies. Jiang Chen listened from the side, but did not say anything. After all, what did other people's matters have to do with him? Aren't you going to help her? A hero saves a damsel in distress and then repaying her with her body. This kind of thing happens, you know. Nian Chang'e mocked. "Forget it. I haven't even dealt with my own disciples. How can I be in the mood to care about other girls?" Jiang Chen said snappily. Boom! At this moment, the seemingly weak scholar suddenly unleashed a terrifying aura. Following that, a decree appeared from his body. The decree was purple in color and was engraved with cryptic patterns. In the middle of the decree, there was a huge God word. This was a god's decree. "Who are you?" At that moment, Xing Ao was shocked. He was even pushed back by the god's decree. Fear flashed in his eyes. A god's decree was not something a saint's decree could compare to. That was a decree from a real god. Under normal circumstances, it was used to protect their descendants. Now that a god's decree appeared in the scholar's body, it meant that this person was protected by a god. For a person to be protected by a god, his status was naturally noble. Interesting, Jiang Chun squinted his eyes. He could feel a strand of his own aura from the god's decree. This meant that this decree was related to him. However, Jiang Chun could not remember when he had given such a decree in his previous life. Moreover, Jiang Chun knew better than anyone else that he had nothing to do with Jiu Li or even the entire underworld region. That's not right. This aura, why is it the same as my disciple? Suddenly, Jiang Chen's eyes widened. He was even more confused. This was because when he sensed it carefully, although there was a strand of his aura on the god's decree, most of it was the aura of his disciple. Jiang Chun used to have 9 disciples, and now they were all in the divine world of the 9 heavens. The aura on this god's decree belonged to his disciple. When he thought of his dissolute disciple, Jiang Chun felt a headache coming on. That brat has descendants in the underworld region? Jiang Chun thought to himself. He asked Nian Chang'e, "How much do you know about the underworld region?" "Be specific," Nian Chang'e said. "For example, the current Jiu Li dynasty," Jiang Chun said. When Nian Chang'e heard that, she thought for a while and said, "The current Jiu Li dynasty is divided into 2 factions. The one in power has the surname Wu. Wu Feng, who you killed previously, is the prince of the Jiu Li dynasty. The other faction does not have the royal surname. It has another surname. As for the reason, I don't know," Nian Chang'e said. Nian Chang'e said, "There are rumors that the other branch doesn't actually belong to the 9 Li dynasty." When Jiang Chun heard that, his face darkened. He cursed in his heart, "You brat, you even passed on the Jiu Li dynasty? What's the surname of the other faction?" Jiang Chun asked. "I remember. It seems to be Mu," Nian Chang'e said. "It's said that the ancestor of the other faction has the surname Mu, and his name is Jian. It's said that he was picked up from a graveyard. Then, the person who picked him up might be uncultured, so he gave him such a name." Jiang Chun was stunned for a while. Then he smiled bitterly. It was because his disciple was picked up from a graveyard by him. Moreover, Jiang Chun was lazy at that time, so he casually gave him a name. That name was indeed Mu Jian. Cough, cough, cough. Mu Jian's name is quite good. It has a deep meaning, a lot of connotation, and a lot of uniqueness. To be able to give such a name, I'm afraid he's also very knowledgeable and talented. Jiang Chen's expression was calm, but he was trying his best to make himself look good. Chapter 371. Nian Chang'e had a strange expression. She looked at Jiang Chen meaningfully and said, "Don't tell me you came up with the name Mu Xian?" Ahem. Jiang Chen's face turned red. He coughed a few times and said seriously, "Is this name not good?" Nian Chang'e was speechless. How could this name be good? She wondered what kind of master Jiang Chen was. How could he name his disciple so casually? At that moment, Xing Ao's expression was solemn. He stared at the scholar, and his body was tense. Everyone knew that the power of a god's decree was not something that mortals could resist. If the scholar wanted to, he could even use this god's decree to kill Xing Ao. Humph. However, the scholar only snorted arrogantly and did not make a move. She turned around and glanced at Xing Ao. Then, she did not say anything and walked into the palace. Xing Ao stood there for a while. His face was red, and he was extremely embarrassed. After all, in front of so many people, his kick could be said to have kicked an iron plate. It's just a god's decree. I have one in Firecloud Mountain, too, Xing Ao said in a low voice. He could not bring himself to do that, and could only say a few words to save his face. When the crowd heard that, they did not say anything. Some chuckled a few times while others had mocking looks in their eyes. At the same time, in a 9 Li palace, a group of royal relatives stood in the main hall. They were all covered in cold sweat and trembling all over. In the main hall, there was a middle-aged man in a dragon robe. He looked furious. He did not say anything. He merely glanced at these people, and they felt an aura that they could not resist. It was an aura that came from the soul. It made it difficult for them to even breathe. This man was the current emperor of the 9 Li dynasty, Wu Taojiang. His cultivation had reached the godly state many years ago. He had not fought for a long time, so no one knew what cultivation level he was at. However, if one thought about it carefully, he should not be far from becoming a godly state. Emperor, this, the ninth princess. The ninth princess, she. After a period of silence in the hall, a man in battle armor trembled as he spoke. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and stammered. She might have gone out to play. Play? Wu Taojiang raised his eyebrows and said, "Don't tell me this emperor doesn't know that she went out to play. I just want to know where she is." Wu Taojiang suddenly shouted angrily. This emperor has sent 36 heavenly dipper guards to keep an eye on her and protect her well. But in the end, where is he now? Your Majesty, please calm down. Your Majesty, please calm down. In an instant, everyone in the hall began to tremble. They all knelt on the ground, their bodies covered in cold sweat. Reporting to the emperor. Found it. At this moment, a guard rushed in and knelt before Wu Taojiang. He's in the imperial city. He's mingling with the people who came to attend the banquet. Oh, what's the matter? Wu Taojiang asked. Nothing, the guard said. However, after pausing for a moment, he thought carefully and said, the ninth princess disguised herself as a man, but someone saw through her. Then what? Wu Taojiang narrowed his eyes and clenched his fist. A terrifying aura emanated from him. Below the main hall, the members of the royal family all tensed up. They knew that if the guard said something happened to the ninth princess, they would all be in trouble. After all, in the Nine Li dynasty, who didn't know how much Wu Taojiang doted on the ninth princess? It could be described as doting on her. Just like before, when Wu Taojiang's own son, Wu Feng, was killed by Jiang Chun, Wu Taojiang was very calm. He only issued a warrant for Jiang Chen's arrest. But now, just because the ninth princess went out to play, Wu Taojiang was furious. It could be seen how important the ninth princess was to Wu Taojiang. It's not a big deal, the guard said. It's just that the young lord of Fire Cloud Mountain, Xing Ao, after seeing through the ninth princess's gender, he flirted with her. What? Oh my God, it's over, it's over. At that moment, the royal family members in the hall broke out in cold sweat. Their hearts were trembling. Flirting. Are you King, courting death? There was once a saint from a big sect who came to propose marriage, but he was crippled by Wu Taojiang and thrown out of the Nine Li dynasty. If you think about it, you can't even propose marriage, let alone flirting? I'm afraid Fire Cloud Mountain is gone. Someone sighed and broke out in cold sweat for Fire Cloud Mountain. Pass down my order. From today onwards, Fire Cloud Mountain will be removed from the nether state, Wu Taojiang said in a low voice. Once he said that, everyone nodded. At the same time, a few extremely powerful auras erupted from the palace and shot into the sky. Then they left, and these extremely powerful auras were the auras of the top assassins in the Nine Li dynasty. It was obvious that under Wu Taojiang's command, these assassins were going to destroy Fire Cloud Mountain. Your Majesty, should we send someone to bring the ninth princess back? The guard asked. Wu Taojiang frowned when he heard that, as if he was in a dilemma. After a few breaths, Wu Taojiang slowly opened his mouth and said, Jiao is bored in the palace, so let her go out to play. Send someone to protect her secretly. If she loses a single strand of hair, bring your heads back to me. Yes. The guard hurriedly nodded and left the palace. At that moment, Jiang Chun and the rest were still on Chaodian Avenue. Along the way, they saw many geniuses from the nether state. Moreover, these geniuses all had a strong witchcraft aura. There were even a few people who exuded an aura that was not inferior to Nian Changa's. One had to know that Nian Changa's current strength was extremely strong. Few people in the same generation could compete with him. The geniuses from various states that we met at the Desolation God training ground weren't considered the top, right? Nian Changa said, no matter how strong you are, there will always be someone stronger. Jiang Chun said softly, Li Fengzi and the rest are considered top geniuses, but you have to know that not everyone is interested in the Desolation God training ground. Therefore, some geniuses didn't go to the desolation god training ground back then. That's true. Nian Chang'e nodded. After a few breaths, Jiang Chun and the rest followed the crowd and finally arrived in front of the palace's gate. The palace's gate was made of two huge blue stones. It was covered with obscure patterns, and there were 9 lifelike true dragons engraved on it. On both sides of the gate, there were 2 godly state experts acting as guards. The 9 Li dynasty's foundation is too deep. Godly state experts as guards. A force that can unify the entire nether state. If it didn't have such a foundation, it would have been destroyed long ago. Many people were whispering to each other. At the same time, some people continued to walk forward. However, no matter who it was, they all stopped when they reached the gate. It was because this place was extraordinary. Chapter 372. Many people had come to participate in the imperial banquet. There were at least 30,000 people, if not 50,000. After all, this was the biggest banquet in the underworld continent. Anyone with a bit of talent would come to try and show their faces. If they were lucky, they might be noticed by the higher-ups of some sect or faction. Therefore, at this moment, there were tens of thousands of people standing at the entrance of the palace. As for the higher-ups of the various sects and factions, they were all standing 1,000 meters away from the entrance. According to the rules, they were not allowed to enter the palace. This place, the pressure is really terrifying. At this moment, Jiang Chun had also arrived at the entrance of the palace. He immediately felt a terrifying pressure coming from the 2 green stone doors. This pressure not only targeted the physical body, but also the soul. At a glance, many people were pale and had cold sweat on their foreheads. It was obvious that they could not withstand this pressure. The first trial of the imperial banquet is indeed different. Someone said proudly, standing tall and straight. But to me, it's nothing. If you can't even pass the first trial of the imperial banquet, what's the point of participating in the imperial banquet? Aren't you here to embarrass yourself? Someone else said. He was very confident and entered the palace despite the pressure. Jiang Chun and Nian Chang'e were naturally fine. The 2 of them walked into the palace as if they were walking on flat ground. At the same time, the cross-dressing scholar that they had met on the way was also walking beside Jiang Chun. Her expression was calm, as if the pressure had no effect on her. On the other side, Xing Ao from Firecloud Mountain was also walking on flat ground. Just like that, when they entered the palace and arrived at the main road leading to the palace, the original tens of thousands of participants were reduced to less than 10,000 people. The others were all blocked at the entrance of the palace. The imperial banquet is only open to the true prodigies. Those who want to join in the fun are not even qualified to enter the palace. Are they really here to embarrass themselves? Many of the prodigies who entered the palace mocked. As for those standing outside the palace, although they were angry, they had to admit that they were not as good as those prodigies. At this moment, a general appeared in front of the palace 1,000 meters away. He stared at the group of people entering the palace with a sharp gaze and shouted, "Come! Charge! Charge!" This was not the first time many of them had attended the court banquet, so they knew what to do next. In an instant, a large group of people rushed out. It was as if they had gone mad as they rushed towards the palace. Jiang Chun and Nian Chang'e looked at each other. Although they didn't know why they were sprinting, they still followed the crowd. However, the moment he took a step forward, Jiang Chun's expression slightly changed. He turned to Nian Chang'e and said, "Gravity field?" "Yes, 1,000-fold gravity field." Nian Chang'e's eyes narrowed. This shouldn't be a formation, nor a restriction enchantment. It should be that person's Tao soul, 1,000 times gravity. But for these people, they should be able to withstand it. Jiang Chun whispered. Then a glint flashed in his eyes. Could it be that they are fighting for a ranking? Is that so? Nian Chang'e blinked his eyes innocently. Then, with a gust of wind under his feet, he rushed out like a stream of light with a swoosh. Seeing this, Jiang Chun didn't dare to fall behind. He used distance shrinking and the power of his physical body and divine body. Like a primordial bull, he rushed out violently. The group of people who were sprinting forward were all dumbfounded when they saw Nian Chang'e and Jiang Chun rush past them like a stream of light. Even the general standing in front of the palace was stunned. He wondered if he had made a mistake in the multiplier of gravity. Otherwise, how could these two guys rush so fast? It should be known that under the thousand-fold gravity field, even a sage couldn't be so fast. Isn't it too fast? At this moment, Jiang Chun rushed all the way. After a few breaths, he saw himself and Nian Chang'e rushing to the front. Still want to keep a low profile? Nian Chang'e said angrily. Since we're here, what are you afraid of? Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Chun and Nian Chang'e felt a breeze blow past them. The two of them were stunned for a moment. Then, they looked ahead and saw the cross-dressing scholar with a smile on his face, flying past them lightly. The two of us seem to be keeping a low profile. Jiang Chun was stunned. He looked at the scholar and said, "What's this guy's background? He's quite strong." "I don't know," Nian Chang'e said. She and Jiang Chun deliberately slowed down their pace. However, not long after, they saw a young man from the Ling tribe in the west rush past them. He turned back and gave Jiang Chun the middle finger. "What the heck?" Jiang Chun was stunned. How can he jump like that? Li tribe grand leader, is this all you've got?" At this moment, a genius from the flood race in the north flashed past Jiang Chun. He was surrounded by thick earth energy. He said in a scornful voice, "Great chieftain of the Li race, you're too weak." I'm indeed weak." Before Jiang Chun could speak, another young man from the Qin tribe rushed past them. He even made a throat-slitting gesture at Jiang Chun. That provocation was going to overturn the sky. "Can you tolerate it?" Nian Chang'e smiled at Jiang Chun. "Of course." Jiang Chun smiled. "Can you really tolerate it?" Nian Chang'e asked again. Jiang Chun was about to speak when he saw a few prodigies from other tribes rushing past them. Moreover, all of them were mocking Jiang Chun without exception. "Can you still tolerate it?" Nian Chang'e mocked. "What do you think?" Jiang Chun's face darkened. This time, he really couldn't tolerate it. It was fine to be mocked once or twice, but to be mocked continuously was too much. In the next moment, Jiang Chun exploded. The power of heaven and earth appeared under his feet like a wave. Then, Jiang Chun stepped on the power of heaven and earth as if he was standing on a wave. His aura was ferocious. In a few steps, Jiang Chun seemed to have crossed time and space. In less than 3 breaths, he had rushed to the front of the general. "What the hell? Where did this kid come from? I heard he's a Li tribe grand leader." The group of people was dumbfounded. They had seen fast people before, but they had never seen someone so fast. Even the general started to doubt himself. Did he really make a mistake with the gravity multiplier? Otherwise, how could this kid in front of him have rushed to his front in 3 steps? Can I ask you a question? Why did you rush in?" At this moment, Jiang Chun asked curiously. "The first person to reach here is the candidate to be the emperor's son-in-law of the 9 Li dynasties, the 9th princess." The general said seriously, "Kid, you have to seize this opportunity. If you become the emperor's son-in-law, you'll be part of the 9 Li dynasty in the future. You'll have a meteoric rise." "Then, can I take a few steps back?" Jiang Chun smiled bitterly. "I don't want to be the emperor's son-in-law candidate." Chapter 373. What did you say? The general was a little confused. It was the first time he had encountered such a situation after so many court banquets. At this moment, Jiang Chun did not hold back at all. After saying that, he retreated. However, after retreating a few steps, Jiang Chun turned around and saw a group of people retreating with him. Jiang Chun retreated 10 steps, and these people retreated 11 steps. "Don't you want to be the emperor's son-in-law?" Jiang Chun said angrily. "If you marry the 9th princess, the entire Jiao Li dynasty will be your backer. Don't you want it? Aren't you retreating yourself?" Someone shouted. They were about to rush to the front of the main hall, but now they were retreating with Jiang Chun. This scene truly caused the crowd to be speechless. Furthermore, they felt that it was hilarious. "You've gone too far." At this moment, the general was furious. What was wrong with these young people? Did they look down on the ninth princess? With a furious roar, the general attacked personally. The power of a supreme sage erupted, and his palms stretched out for 100 miles, directly suppressing Jiang Chun. Then he lifted him to the front of the main hall. "You are the first," the general said with a serious expression. Jiang Chun wanted to cry. How would he know that he would become a candidate for the emperor's son-in-law if he won first place? If he knew, would he have run so fast? "My condolences." Nian Chang'e walked over with a smile and patted Jiang Chen's shoulder. "It's okay. You're just the emperor's son-in-law. F***ck. Jiang Chen's face was as dark as ink, and he cursed in his heart. If he had known this would happen, he would have endured the ridicule of those people. Now, he had become a candidate for the emperor's son-in-law. If his disciples knew about this, they would turn the sky upside down. Moreover, how could one be so casual about love? He had not even met the ninth princess and had not even spoken to her. They did not know each other's personalities. How could he become a candidate for the emperor's son-in-law? What kind of joke was this? However, what else could Jiang Chun say when he glanced at the great saint-level general in front of him? If he angered the other party with his great sage strength, he could easily crush Jiang Chun with a single slap. "What is that on your back?" At this moment, the general frowned as he stared at the coffin on Jiang Chun's back. He said in a low voice, "This is an important place in the imperial palace. You actually brought a coffin here? What do you mean?" "Oh, this is one of my spirit artifacts. It's not a coffin," Jiang Chun hurriedly explained. "We'll be entering the palace soon. Take down this coffin like spirit tool," the general said in a deep voice. "This thing is unlucky just looking at it. It's detrimental to the prestige of the royal family." "Take him down? Where should I put it?" Jiang Chun immediately became anxious. It had to be known that the blue sky Confucian scholar within the azure and gold coffin was relying on Jiang Chun's essence energy to prolong his life. If the azure and gold coffin left Jiang Chun's side, the blue sky Confucian scholar would die in less than a day. The reason Jiang Chun came to the Dark Continent was to save the blue sky Confucian scholar. This spirit artifact is quite good. It's very interesting. At this moment, the scholarly woman walked over and said with a smile, "Why did you refine this spirit artifact?" "I thought it would be fun." Jiang Chun made up a story. Then you can bring it in." The general suddenly changed his words and glanced at the scholar from the corner of his eye. Then he said to Jiang Chun, "Since you're a candidate for the emperor's son-in-law, I'll let you bring it in." "Oh!" Jiang Chun was stunned. Was that really the case? Then Jiang Chun and the others waited in front of the main hall for a while. When 10,000 people rushed here, the general said, "Everyone else leave." Sure enough, they're competing for the top 10,000. Nian Chang'e muttered, "But can this palace fit all 10,000 people?" "Void Spirit Cave Abode, open." At this moment, the general took out a token and formed a seal with both hands. With a loud shout, a mysterious light suddenly appeared in front of the palace. Then a mirror image appeared around them. Mountains and rivers appeared out of thin air. In just a few breaths, the scenery in front of the palace changed greatly. Upon closer inspection, this place was like a small world. Mountains and rivers crisscrossed, and the vegetation was lush. It was like a paradise on earth. "Do you really think you can enter the palace?" the general said angrily. "The imperial banquet will be held in the Void Spirit Cave Abode." With that, the general turned around and entered the palace. Jiang Chun and the others didn't know what to do next, so they waited quietly. "Hey, why don't you want to be the prince consort of the ninth princess?" At this moment, the scholar-looking woman came over and asked curiously, "I heard that the ninth princess is both talented and beautiful. Her talent is outstanding, and she is deeply loved by the emperor. If you marry the ninth princess, you'll be rich." "I haven't even seen her face. Why should I marry her?" Jiang Chun covered his forehead. He felt his head hurt. He hadn't dealt with his disciples yet. He hadn't dealt with Li Can from the Li clan, and now he was a candidate to be the prince consort of the ninth princess. If he really became the prince consort of the ninth princess, this matter would really give him a headache. Little brother, you don't know, but we heard some things about the ninth princess on the way here. Nian Changa smiled and said, I heard that the ninth princess looks very casual. Looks casual? The scholar was dumbfounded. She lowered her head to look at herself, and a trace of anger flashed in her eyes. That was because the cross-dressing scholar was none other than the ninth princess of the Nine Li dynasty. Who said so? I'll kill his whole family. The ninth princess's face was ugly. She waved her hand subconsciously, as if she wanted to call her guards. However, she reacted quickly. She chuckled and didn't continue speaking. Hey, the emperor wants you to go in. At this moment, the general walked out of the palace. He pointed at Jiang Chun and then at the palace gate and said, the emperor is waiting for you inside. He has something to ask you. Me? Jiang Chun looked around and felt guilty. Jiang Chun had heard of the emperor of the Nine Li dynasty. He was an expert who surpassed the godly state. This person most likely had opened his third eye. Then, if Jiang Chun appeared in front of the emperor of the Nine Li dynasty, wouldn't his disguise be seen through in minutes? Don't worry, go ahead. Nian Chang'an knew what Jiang Chun was worried about. She waved her hand gently in her sleeve, and 36 lotuses appeared. Then a petal fell on Jiang Chun's body. 36 lotuses, 36 kinds of abilities. It's just a small matter to help you hide your identity. Are you sure? Jiang Chun squinted and said, if my identity is seen through, you can just wait to collect my corpse. After saying that, Jiang Chun braced himself and followed the general into the palace. Cough, cough. Young hero, the emperor wants you to go in too. The general suddenly turned around and looked at the ninth princess. It was a little awkward to call her a young hero. Chapter 374. Jiang Chun stepped into the palace nervously. After all, he was facing the emperor of the Nine Li dynasty, Wu Taojiang. If his identity was exposed, even if Jiang Chun used a forbidden technique, it would be difficult for him to leave this place alive. Moreover, Wu Taojiang was not the only one in the palace. There were all the officials in the palace, as well as the various princes and relatives of the emperor. These people not only possessed status, they also possessed terrifying strength. Greetings, Emperor. At this moment, Jiang Chun was very obedient. After walking to the bottom of the palace, he lowered his head and bowed to Wu Taojiang. How dare you? Why don't you kneel before the emperor? Immediately, one of the officials was furious. After shouting angrily, a terrifying supreme sage aura erupted and pressed towards Jiang Chun. He wanted to force Jiang Chun to kneel. I only kneel to my parents. Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows. In this world, the only people who could make him kneel were his parents. He would not kneel to anyone else, even if it was heaven or earth. However, at this moment, Jiang Chun certainly didn't take this mere great saint's aura seriously. However, if he did not kneel and angered Wu Taojiang, the consequences would be serious. But for Jiang Chun, kneeling down wasn't something he could do. He can withstand the supreme sage aura? This little guy is interesting. All the officials looked at the tall and straight Jiang Chun and could not help but feel slightly surprised, but they did not say anything. Seeing this, Wu Taojiang's expression was very calm. He smiled and waved his hand, saying, We are all cultivators, not the imperial court of the mortal world. There is no need to be so polite. Thank you, Emperor, Jiang Chun said softly. Then he stood where he was and remained silent. He was waiting for Wu Taojiang to speak. Greetings, Emperor. At this moment, the ninth princess also entered the palace. She had a strange expression and bowed to Wu Taojiang, but did not kneel. Have you had enough fun? Wu Taojiang raised his eyebrows. He looked angry, but deep in his eyes, there was a trace of doting. Jiang Chun was stunned. After all, he did not know that the cross-dressing scholar was the ninth princess. Father, when the ninth princess heard this, she was immediately displeased. She even skipped over to Wu Taojiang's side in front of all the ministers and sat down on the dragon throne next to Wu Taojiang. Regarding this, the ministers did not say anything. They were probably used to such occurrences. You're the 9th princess, yet you insist on attending the banquet. Do you know how worried father is about you? Wu Taojiang said seriously, but he dotingly stroked the 9th princess's head and said, "What do you think?" Hearing this, the 9th princess was dumbfounded. She tilted her head and asked in confusion, "What do you mean? Father is asking if it's fun?" "It's quite fun." Without waiting for Wu Taojiang to speak, the 9th princess smiled and said, "I have to go out more in the future. I'm asking how this person is." Wu Taojiang's expression became more serious. He stared at Jiang Chun, then looked at the 9th princess. "This person is a candidate for the emperor's son-in-law. If you think it's okay, then do it." Jiang Chun was already in a mess. He stood there in a daze, not knowing what to do. He did not expect that this woman was the 9th princess. "Imperial father, marriage is not a trifling matter." The 9th princess blushed and said weakly, "The man in my heart must be indomitable and able to become a god." "He looks so weak." The 9th princess pursed her lips. "Moreover, there are rumors outside that I'm ugly. No one likes me." As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of all the officials in the imperial court became strange. Even Wu Taojiang's old face turned red, and he awkwardly coughed a few times. This was because the rumors outside said that the 9th princess was ugly. This rumor was spread by Wu Taojiang. As for why, it was because he was worried that his daughter was too beautiful and would be kidnapped. "If you're not satisfied with this person, then kill him." In the next moment, Wu Taojiang waved his hand gently. Like a high and mighty ruler, he decided Jiang Chen's life and death with one sentence. Jiang Chen only chuckled at this. He did not find it strange. After all, the stronger one was the higher one's vision. In the eyes of the strongest, all living things were like ants and dust that could be easily wiped away. However, Jiang Chen wasn't willing to give up. Just because the 9th princess did not like him, Wu Taojiang wanted to kill him? This can't be. "Father, mother said that you're too violent. You kill people at the drop of a hat." The 9th princess pouted and said, "He didn't do anything wrong. You're not allowed to kill him." "I'll listen to you," Wu Taojiang said softly. Then, he stared at Jiang Chun for more than 10 breaths of time. During this time, Jiang Chun felt weak and his back was covered in cold sweat. "You're the Grand Clan leader of the Li tribe?" Wu Taojiang asked after more than 10 breaths of time. Although it was a question, Wu Taojiang already knew Jiang Chen's identity. After all, this was the underworld state, the territory of the 9 Li dynasty. It was easy for Wu Taojiang to check a person's identity. "I'm not from the Li tribe. By chance, I became the Grand Clan leader of the Li tribe." Jiang Chen said, "My master is Qiong Mo. Do you know him?" "I do." Wu Taojiang's eyes narrowed, and he clenched his fists. At the same time, when the officials heard the name Qiong Mo, their expressions became strange. "Is your master dead?" After a few breaths of time, Wu Taojiang suddenly asked. This question made Jiang Chun dumbfounded. It was said that when you ask someone, you would ask in a positive way. But why did Wu Taojiang ask if he was dead? Could it be that Wu Taojiang and Qiong Mo had some deep hatred? However, if there was really a deep hatred, then Wu Taojiang would have attacked Jiang Chun, who was pretending to be Qiong Mo's disciple. He wouldn't have asked this question. "I don't know." Jiang Chun thought for a while and said, "My master has been in seclusion." "I don't know about him." "Has been in seclusion?" "Seclusion?" At this moment, the entire hall was filled with soft gasps. Even Wu Taojiang was stunned and asked uncertainly, "Is he really in seclusion?" "Yes." Jiang Chun was lying through his teeth. Since he had already lied to this extent, it didn't make a difference. "Then, who was the one who came to my imperial garden a while ago?" Wu Taojiang's face darkened and said, "He ate one of my alternative dragon mounts and stewed one of my pure-blooded Luan birds." Jiang Chun was speechless. He stood there in a daze and didn't know what to say. At the same time, Jiang Chen was very curious about who Qiong Mo was. Nian Chang'e didn't tell him in detail. Nian Chang'e only told Jiang Chen that if something happened, he should reveal his identity as Qiong Mo's disciple. He would be fine in the underworld region, but now why did he feel that something was wrong? Chapter 375. He even dared to eat Wu Taojiang's mouth. What was wrong with Qiongmo? Jiang Chen glanced at the ministers from the corner of his eye. He felt that these people were angry, but did not dare to say anything. Fine, let's go to the imperial banquet. Wu Taojiang was silent for a long time. Then, he waved his hand and gestured for Jiang Chen to leave. Jiang Chen heard and nodded. He could not wait to leave. I want to go too. The ninth princess shouted. She grabbed Wu Taojiang's arm and shook it. Wu Taojiang was the emperor of the Nine Li dynasty and the king of the Nether Continent. In the Nether Continent, no one dared to treat him this way. However, Wu Taojiang could not do anything to the ninth princess. Be careful, Wu Taojiang said helplessly. Then, the ninth princess hopped off the dragon throne with a smile and walked out of the palace with Jiang Chen. Meanwhile, outside the palace, the imperial banquet was about to begin. Looking around, the 10,000 people were divided into 100 groups. Each group occupied an area of 1,000 miles. In each area, there were battle rings, alchemy cauldrons, formation stones, and even musical instruments, chess, calligraphy, and painting. That was because today was the first day of the imperial banquet. They were not competing in martial arts, but in art. Jiang Chen was bored. After all, as the hierarch of the Chuanzuan sect, he knew how to play musical instruments, chess, calligraphy, painting, alchemy, and crafting weapons. Moreover, he was the most powerful. Aren't you going to try? Jiang Chen walked to Nian Chang'e and asked with a dark face, What is Qiongmo? To me, I can compete in martial arts. However, this kind of artistic work is not suitable for me. Nian Chang'e only answered Jiang Chen's first question. As for Qiongmo's question, he ignored it. The first day of the competition is for those who are not powerful. The ninth princess had been following Jiang Chen ever since she came out of the palace. That was because she was not familiar with the contestants. The only one she was familiar with was Jiang Chen. Did you hear that? The first day of the competition is prepared for those who don't have the strength. If I participate in it, wouldn't it mean that I don't have the strength? Nian Chang'e said. Then he habitually took out the booklet, wanting to show off. Jiang Chen hurriedly stopped him and said, But I heard that if you can advance on the first day, you will be able to advance to the last day of the competition, or even advance to the underworld feast. That's true. The ninth princess explained. After all, alchemy and crafting cannot be measured by the eyes of ordinary people. If you can show extremely high attainments in alchemy and crafting, then even if your strength is low, you can still advance. Then, can we really advance directly to the underworld feast? Jiang Chen asked. Of course. The ninth princess nodded. But under normal circumstances, such a thing would not happen. As she spoke, the ninth princess explained the reason for this. It turned out that the conditions to directly advance to the underworld feast were extremely harsh. For example, in alchemy, one had to at least refine a 9-star elixir, and the quality had to exceed the heaven grade. Only then could one advance directly to the underworld feast. But it had to be known that the path of alchemy included things like weapon refinement and formations, and it had nothing to do with strength. Alchemy and crafting weapons required years of accumulation and exploration, study, and comprehension to achieve something. Those who came to participate in the court banquet were all young people. At their age, it was naturally difficult for them to refine a 9-star elixir, let alone raise the quality of a 9-star elixir to the heaven grade. That was simply impossible. Of course, there were occasional exceptions. However, such exceptions were rare. At least in the past 500 years, there had not been any exceptions. If I can advance directly to the underworld feast, then Jiang Chen thought, and could not help but look at the area in front of him. The court banquet had already begun. However, there were very few people participating in the first day of the competition. Most of them were just watching. In the area where Jiang Chen was among the 100 people, only a dozen were competing. Some were refining elixirs, some were crafting weapons, and some were displaying their talents, such as zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Are you going to participate? Nian Chang'e asked. If I can advance directly to the underworld feast, it will save me a lot of trouble. Jiang Qin smiled, and then stepped out to the center of the area. He said to the person in charge of the area, "Can I try?" "Anyone can." The person in charge said, "Alchemy or crafting weapons?" When Jiang Qin heard that, he could not help but frown. After thinking carefully, he asked, "What about the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting?" Jiang Qin was very clear. Refining a 9-star heaven-grade elixir was very easy for him. However, at his age, once he refined such an elixir, it would definitely cause a sensation. At that time, he would probably be in a lot of trouble. As for crafting weapons, it was too time-consuming. Jiang Qin was very lazy and did not want to do it. Now it seemed that the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting were the best choices. The zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. You can choose one. The person in charge said, "There will be professionals to evaluate you." "Then, I'll choose the flute." Jiang Qin asked, "Can I?" "Of course." The person in charge nodded. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Qin took out the flute, Everlasting Love. His mind was calm, and then a melodious sound of the flute was heard. "Damn, this guy." Nian Chang'e had a strange look on her face. As soon as she heard the sound of the flute, she knew what Jiang Qin was doing. This guy was obviously playing the sage's emotionless mantra. This was one of the most powerful sound-type martial arts techniques. The sound of the flute? The moment the sound of the flute was heard in the palace, from the sages to Wu Tao Jiang, all of their expressions changed. This was because they all heard the extraordinariness of the sound of the flute. Some of the sages even looked absent-minded, as if they had lost their minds. The long-lost sage's emotionless mantra. After a few breaths, in the palace, a great sage dressed like a scholar exclaimed, "Oh, one of the most powerful sound-type martial arts techniques, the sage's emotionless mantra?" Wu Tao Jiang narrowed his eyes and said, "You have high attainments in sound-type martial arts. Go and see who is playing the sage's emotionless mantra outside." "Yes, Your Majesty." The great sage nodded and then left the palace. When he arrived outside the palace and saw the scene in front of him, he felt terrible. This was because under the effect of the sage's emotionless mantra, the entire spirit void, cave abode, fell silent amidst the melodious sound of the flute. Looking around, every participant, and even the person in charge, seemed to have lost their minds. Their eyes were empty and lifeless as they stood there foolishly. Those who were refining pills and weapons stopped what they were doing. Listening to the sound of the flute, it was as if they were possessed. As expected of the sage's emotionless mantra, the great sage exclaimed softly. Then he saw Jiang Qin, who was playing the flute. A look of surprise flashed across his eyes as he thought to himself, "Qiong Mo's disciple knows this thing? That's impossible." Chapter 376. Qiong Mo was a pet raised by Nian Chang'e's master. However, Nian Chang'e did not tell Jiang Qin what his true form was. However, anyone who knew about Qiong Mo knew what kind of person he was. Zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting had nothing to do with Qiong Mo. Now, a person who claimed to be Qiong Mo's disciple actually knew how to play the Taishang Wang Qing. That made the great sage feel depressed. Interesting. The great sage stared at Jiang Qin for a while. Then, he waved his hand, and a long zither appeared in front of him. He sat down cross-legged with his zither floating in front of him. His 10 fingers danced, and a sonorous melody exploded. Like a violent storm, everyone felt as if the world was about to be destroyed in this rhythm. The melody was violent, merciless, and chaotic. The group of people who had been absent-minded because of the great indifference regained their senses one after another due to the violent rhythm. My elixir, the spiritual weapon that I refined. What happened just now? Why did he suddenly become absent-minded? It was as if he was possessed. Exclamations sounded one after another. After everyone recovered from the shock, they felt that everything was too unbelievable. Huh, isn't that the Guqin saint of the Nine-Li dynasty? What is he doing? After a few breaths, everyone recovered from the shock. When they saw the great sage, they could not help but be moved. Jiang Chen also frowned. He looked at the great sage who was playing the zither from the corner of his eye, and he could not help but smile. In the next moment, a ray of light flashed in Jiang Chen's eyes. The melody of the Taishang Wang Qing suddenly changed. From the previous gentle melody, it turned into a violent melody. It was like a war song. Everyone felt as if they had come to a battlefield. Some people even had hallucinations. There were thousands of soldiers rushing toward them. Little guy interesting. The Guqin saint chuckled. His fingertips plucked the zither strings, and the melody became more violent. In fact, there were even bolts of lightning appearing in the sky. It was like a sea of lightning, as expected of the Guqin saint. Just by plucking the strings with his fingertips, he can cause the world to change. Someone praised, entering the Tao through the Guqin. A song of ask not will make people ask not about the great Tao. Someone sighed. The Guqin saint was very famous in the underworld state and even the entire godless continent. His attainments in the zither music were extraordinary. It was said that he had once suppressed a deity realm powerhouse with a single tune, Ask Not. Now, everyone was even more curious as to why the Guqin saint would suddenly make a move. Looking at the young man who was playing the flute, the group of people thought, could it be that the zither saint was sparring with this kid? However, with Guqin saint's status and strength, wasn't he bullying Jiang Chun by sparring with Jiang Chen? The leader of the Li tribe, Jiang Chun, doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. How dare he compete with the Guqin saint in Pinyin? Someone said with disdain. They didn't know that the reason why they were distracted before was because of Jiang Chun. Play what? Can this court banquet still continue? Suddenly, Wu Taojiang's angry voice came from the palace. Hearing this, the Guqin saint's old face was embarrassed. He hurriedly got up and put away his long Guqin. Then, he looked at Jiang Chun and said, See you at the underworld state banquet. Once these words were said, the entire place fell silent. Even Jiang Chun was stunned. It wasn't until 10 breaths of time later that Jiang Chun reacted. He smiled and said, Does this mean that I've directly advanced to the underworld state banquet? Since the Guqin saint said so, then you've advanced. The person in charge sighed. How many years has it been since I've seen the Guqin saint make a move? You're the only person in the past 100 years who made the Guqin saint pluck the strings. Guqin saint? Jiang Chun said softly, but he was sweating in his heart. This was because he had only scratched the surface of the supreme emotion, forgetting mantra. Compared to those sound path powerhouses, his tricks were completely used to fool those who didn't understand sound path. However, when the day came that Jiang Chun completely understood the supreme emotion forgetting mantra, then all the sound path cultivators in the world would have to step aside. Nian Chang'e, hurry up and do something. Save me the trouble. Jiang Chun looked at Nian Chang'e and said, Don't you have a long Guqin? That's good. If I can advance directly, it'll save me a lot of trouble. Nian Chang'e smiled. Then, Nian Chang'e also made a move. She played the Guqin, and a war song rang out. What's going on with this year's banquet? Why are there so many sound path cultivators? Inside the palace, Wu Taojiang frowned and looked at the Guqin saint. He asked, The one who played the flute has advanced. What about the one who played the Guqin? He can also advance. The Guqin saint's eyes shone. He said, If he's willing, he can become my disciple. Once these words were spoken, all the officials' expressions changed. That was because the Guqin saint had never taken a disciple since he started cultivating. Then summon him into the palace. You can ask him yourself, Wu Taojiang said. As soon as he finished speaking, someone walked out of the palace. After arriving outside, Nian Chang'e was summoned into the palace. Then, Nian Chang'e entered the palace, but came out not long after. Where did you go? Jiang Chun asked curiously. Amir Supreme, Saint wants to take me as a disciple. Nian Chang'e had a strange expression. She muttered, "I didn't agree." "Do you have the guts to agree?" Jiang Chen teased. Hearing this, Nian Chang'e looked embarrassed and a little scared. She said, "I already have a master. If I take someone else as my master will probably swallow me alive. Then what's the situation now?" Jiang Chen asked. "Like you, I've advanced." Nian Chang'e smiled, looking proud. Then she took out the booklet again, wanting to find some pretentious quotes. "Come on, why are you still pretending in front of me?" Jiang Chen teased. "What's there to pretend in front of the Divine King?" Hearing this, Nian Chang'e stared and said, "Why can't I pretend in front of you? Back then I was still your—" However, at this point, Nian Chang'e immediately shut up. She looked down, coughed a few times, and didn't make a sound. Jiang Chen was a little annoyed. Why did she stop halfway through her sentence? "Back then? Did we know each other before?" Jiang Chen asked. "No." Nian Chang'e immediately denied. "Don't think too much. TSK, you're being so mysterious." Jiang Chen curled his lips, but he was more and more confused. Jiang Chen knew that Nian Chang'e had a lot of things to hide from him. And these things, Jiang Chen thought, should be important to him. But if Nian Chang'e didn't say anything, Jiang Chen wouldn't ask. Those who used to be together will be reunited soon. Nian Chang'e was silent for a few seconds, looked up at the sky, and whispered, "When a reincarnation cycle ends, a red spider lily withers, and a big world is coming. At that time, it's hard to say whether the holy will be full of light or the darkness will suffer." "What are you trying to say?" Jiang Chen asked. "Do you know the Empress?" Nian Chang'e didn't answer Jiang Chen's question, but asked, "You've seen her, right?" "The Empress? How do you know?" Jiang Chen stared. Back in the small world, Jiang Chen saw Tian Shui release the Empress with his own eyes. But they had only met once. And back then, Nian Chang'e wasn't around. So how did he know about the Empress? Chapter 377. Nian Chang'e stopped talking and stood quietly at the side. No one knew what he was thinking. Sometimes, Jiang Chen felt that Nian Chang'e was not stupid, but just lazy. Nian Chang'e's laziness was not laziness in his actions, but he was too lazy to speak and explain. He was lazy in his words. Or, Nian Chang'e was unwilling to say something because of some reasons. But Jiang Chen did not blame him. After all, everyone had their own difficulties. Moreover, Nian Chang'e had said that he did not tell Jiang Chen some things for Jiang Chen's sake. In this way, what reason did Jiang Chen have to blame Nian Chang'e? At this moment, Jiang Chen did not speak, and Nian Chang'e also stood silently at the side. The two stood quietly and watched the competition in the major areas. The first day of the competition was quite boring. After all, there was no fighting. It was all some literary competitions. Since Jiang Chen and Nian Chang'e had joined the fight, the others' fights became more boring. After all, both Jiang Chen and Nian Chang'e had been promoted to the Nether Prefecture's banquet. The literary attainments they showed were incomparable to those of the people present. As time passed, Jiang Chen was a little bored. He said goodbye to Nian Chang'e and turned to leave, intending to take a look inside the palace. Anyone who came to participate in the imperial banquet was qualified to walk around the palace. And the palace was heavily guarded, and there were many strong people. There was no need to worry that these participants would do anything out of line. Half an hour later, Jiang Chen walked along a winding path. Before long, he came to a lakeside. The lakeside was not big, and the water was very clear. There were a few purple lotus flowers in the water, and golden carps could be seen under the water. There was a pavilion by the lakeside, and a young man was sitting there. His expression was slightly dignified, and he did not put down the teacup in his hand for a long time. "Don't you know that this is Yangxin Palace Hall?" At this moment, the young man frowned, and a trace of hostility flashed in his eyes. Then he suddenly got up and came to Jiang Chen in a flash. Jiang Chen's eyelids drooped slightly as he looked at the young man with slight astonishment. He said softly, "Stellar transposition? Scram." The young man didn't say much. He opened his mouth and spat out the word scram. Under normal circumstances, Jiang Chun naturally wouldn't tolerate it. However, this was the imperial palace, and Jiang Chun did not dare to be too presumptuous. But just as Jiang Chun turned around, the young man's eyes suddenly flashed. "Are you here to attend the court banquet?" Jiang Chun said softly, but his footsteps did not stop. He continued to walk outside. "Wait!" When the young man heard this, he hurriedly spoke. In a flash, he appeared in front of Jiang Chun again. This time, Jiang Chun was somewhat displeased. "You're the one who told me to leave, and now you're the one who's asking me to stop. What do you take me for?" At this moment, Jiang Chun's gaze sharpened. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he stared at the young man. He said coldly, "What do you want?" "I want to ask you about someone," the young man said in a low voice. "Is Xing Ao of Firecloud Mountain here to attend the court banquet?" Xing Ao. Jiang Chun thought for a moment before recalling that before entering the imperial palace, Xing Ao of Firecloud Mountain seemed to have flirted with the ninth princess. However, Jiang Chun did not want to answer. "Why should I answer your question? Why should I leave just because you tell me to? Why should I stay just because you tell me to? Who do you think you are?" With that thought, Jiang Chun reached out and pushed the young man to the side. Then he lifted his feet and walked forward. The young man was stunned. He did not expect that someone would dare to push him away in the imperial palace. Did this young man not know who he was? "I'm asking you a question." At this moment, the young man was enraged. With a roar, his figure flashed again and blocked in front of Jiang Chun. One of the top 10 movement techniques, stellar transposition. You've cultivated it well. Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Jiang Chun take a step forward. With one step, Jiang Chun moved 1,000 meters forward. Shrinking, the young man narrowed his eyes, and his figure flashed again. Like a shooting star, he caught up with Jiang Chun. At the same time, the young man extended his palm. His 5 fingers were like an eagle's claw, and he grabbed at Jiang Chun's shoulder. "Are all the people from the Nine Li dynasty so overbearing?" Jiang Chun said in a low voice. He moved his body slightly and dodged the young man's palm. Moreover, Jiang Chun did not say one thing. The people from the Nine Li dynasty were not only overbearing, but they also liked to court death. Just like Wu Feng, the prince of the Nine Li dynasty. Of course, Jiang Chun did not dare to kill the people from the Nine Li dynasty in the palace. Moreover, the young man in front of him called himself, "I'm your majesty." He must be a relative of the royal family. All the more he could not kill him. If not to save the Confucian grand ancestor, I could kill a bunch of you with one slap. Jiang Chun thought to himself. He was furious. "I'll ask you one last time. Is Xing Ao from Firecloud Mountain here?" The young man's eyes were gloomy, and killing intent appeared on his face. This made Jiang Chun very angry. He clenched his fists and wanted to kill the young man in front of him. "You want to kill me with just a few words? You're really something." Jiang Chun cursed in his heart, but his expression was calm. He said softly, "Don't you know how to see for yourself? If I could leave this place, why would I need to ask you?" The young man's face became gloomier, and purple lightning appeared on his body. The sound of thunder exploded, and his eyes turned purple. "Spiritual thunder sacred body?" Jiang Chun exclaimed softly, and a trace of excitement flashed in his eyes. It was because the spiritual thunder sacred body was rare. It could control thunder and lightning, and even heavenly tribulation and heavenly punishment. As for Jiang Chun, he had been struck by lightning a lot in this life. Jiang Chun also thought about it. He either had a lot of tribulation transcendence pills and lightning evasion pills on him, or he could think of other ways. After all, he was struck by lightning every 2 or 3 days. Who knew when he would be struck to death? And now, Jiang Chun met a spiritual thunder sacred body who could control thunder and lightning. Then, Jiang Chun naturally had an idea in his heart. "If you acknowledge me as your master, I can tell you," Jiang Chun said seriously. When these words came out, the young man who called himself, "I'm your majesty," was in a mess. He tilted his head and looked at Jiang Chun. He thought to himself, "What's the situation with this young man? I have a bad temper. I can kill people with just a few words," the young man said in a deep voice. When Jiang Chun heard that, he suddenly sneered and said, "I have a bad temper too. I like to accept disciples with just a few words." "You have guts." The young man raised his eyebrows. In this nether prefecture, especially in this Nine-Li dynasty, there are not many people who dare to talk to me like that. Even if there are, most of them are dead. The grass on their graves is more than 3 feet tall. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.